Just going through, as I said, as we're walking around here, we've gone past young people, young girls with blankets over them from the shock. This isn't a shock to me. I don't understand people who are surprised by this. We've had 12 suspected terrorist attacks planned last year. If they would have been successful, you'd have seen shopping centres, you'd have seen aeroplanes, you'd have seen nightclubs, you'd have seen a war zone on our streets, similar to this, every single month. Then, and only then, might people realise we are at war. We're in war already. We have over 3,000 Muslims who are monitored 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Every week, costs a £9 billion a year. We're following and waiting for them to do this. We have had 450 ISIS fighters been allowed to return to our country. They've gone and fought for ISIS. They've been in training camps. They've been beheading people. They've been raping people. And they're walking the streets of our capital city. They're living with us. Our government have failed us. Don't come out and act all strong on this, Home Secretary, Theresa May, because you haven't been strong. You've been weak. You've showed cowardice. Okay? Because my head is not up my arse. Yeah? My head is not up my arse. This is an Islamic jihad attack. The man that done this would have either been radicalised in a prison or he would have been radicalised on the streets of the UK with full knowledge of our government and our security services. They will know who he is. Yeah, mate, I have information that shows there was 4 terrorist attacks last week in France. 4 in France. There was 12 planned last year. Driving your car like this man has done is exactly what the Inspire magazine, which is Al Qaeda's magazine, which was downloaded by 50,000 British Muslims last year. 50,000 British Muslims downloaded a terrorist manual in our country. 50,000, not 10, not 20, 50,000 people who want to see exactly what you see there. That's what they want. They want war, they want death, they want destruction, and we keep on pandering like you just come up to me saying it's got nothing to do with Islam. It's got everything to do with Islam.
Everything to do with Islam.
It's got everything to do with Islam. Okay, well, I'm on the reality. This is the reality. The reality is this is a war. These people are waging war on us for time. This has gone on for 1,400 years. This is nothing new. And the whole time while this goes on, police leaders or political leaders want to invite more. They want to invite more.
TikTok, fake yardies in a London, the whole world want to be with. So a bad, serious thing where we're from. At the gangland, can't take where people for drunk, must be mad. If I not M.R, me no want in a boy talk like they from yard. No, I put the beam on the beam, blood clot.
There's 28 men starting trial for raping young kids. Are any young Muslim girls getting raped in the city? You're scum. You're defending rape. You're defending child rapists. They're all getting convicted. They're all going to jail. I'm here to expose people like you, all of you. Your boyfriend is a rapist, darling. Your boyfriend. They're going to jail for rape. You heard what I said. You're standing out courts defending paedophiles. So what? When you think of Oxford in the UK, do you think of the world's best university? Do you think of the beautiful architecture? You should think again. The address for this mosque is Mansell Way. Mansell translates as Mosque Way. One of the young English children that was being raped at a house directly opposite this mosque on Mosque Way, a road that's been renamed as Mosque Way. In these cases, one of the victims had the letter M, inscribed with a burning hot iron mark on her bum, M, because she'd become the property of Muhammad. Another girl had her tongue nailed to a table. There's another court case now with 17 Muslim men who are in court for the prostitution and rape of young 12-year-old English white girls. And the sickening thought is that many Muslims would have come into this mosque and prayed, they'd have walked straight out of the mosque and they'd have gone and took turns with their sexual slave. That's the reality of what's happening. They're all getting convicted, they're all going to jail.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Money Cinder channel. We have, as you know, Raj joining us. He's fashionably late as usual. Haven't got a foggiest in how to use his IT equipment, but I'm sure he'll get there eventually. And in the words of Tommy Robinson, as you just heard there, they're all getting convicted and they're all going to jail sooner or later, including the politicians that support them, that join them, including all the other establishment squirrels that are guilty at the same game, really. So what are we going to be talking today? So we're going to be talking about, obviously, grooming gangs. So here are the few points that I want to go over. Is it a Muslim or Pakistani grooming gang issue? What exactly is the crime committed by the grooming gangs? Before they third question we're going to be looking at is, before they targeted English white girls, they targeted Sikh girls. So we'll discuss that. We'll discuss how the Sikh organization Shere Punjab dealt with the issue, and that was basically what propelled the perpetrators to go after British white English girls. We're going to talk about Starmer, his support for Savile, and the now infamous report that he doesn't want to give the go-ahead to. We're going to be talking about Labour councillors who have been involved, who have been head of the councils that have been involved in all this grooming. We're going to discuss what Musk said, and we're going to discuss what the establishment puppet Farage is going on about, and then a bit more. But without further ado, good evening, Raj.
Good evening. How you doing?
Very good. And yourself?
Why are you so late? 20 minutes, man.
Don't get me started. I'll have a chat with you afterwards. So you
No. It's the problem is because I actually got a 710, but it's so annoying. You know, when you have it logged into StreamYard for age, you have to go through the whole freaking kind of all these kind of like codes being sent left, right, and center. So yeah.
So Raj, one of the main reasons why you were at Speaker's Corner was obviously you were one of the leading voices at Speaker's Corner about grooming gangs.
Yeah.
But before we start going into the details of it, why don't you give us the synopsis of your experience? Introduce yourself almost to what your experience was, why you went there, and what you encountered.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it wasn't the only reason. I kind of was interested in Speaker's Corner for lots of different reasons, but that was one reason as well why I went down there. I thought, let me just maybe kind of talk about it. Yeah, I mean, it's still the same thing about denial, isn't it? There's no real accountability from, let's say, the Pakistani community, right? To kind of say, okay, we have an issue within our community about this, what we call grooming. And obviously, before everyone goes, every community does it. Yes, we know this. But this particular way of grooming and the way they target girls and why they target particular girls is very unique, right? So, yes, obviously you can say the white population, yeah, we can agree. No one's denying that, most pedophiles are from the white indigenous population, right? Then when you look at the Catholic Church, no one's denying that, the Catholic Church is pretty much destroyed. Their reputation's gone down the pan because of the abuse scandals that they've gone through. And I personally would say, if you used to name some of the worst abuse scandals in history, theirs would be number one, in my opinion, because of how long it's been going on for. But this kind of whataboutism, well, you don't talk about that one, so you can't talk about this one, it's stupid, right? The reason I spoke about it is obviously I knew somebody, right, who had gone through grooming, right, at a young age, like 14. A family, a member of the family, not very close, but quite far distant. But I knew them quite well when they were younger, and so I just wanted to kind of see, whether people are kind of taking responsibility for what's been, and it's been going on. Firstly, before he says, "Oh no, it didn't." It's been going on since the 70s, 80s with the Sikhs first. Yeah, so it was originally with the Sikhs. You'd hear the stories, and they're very similar to the stories of how the white girls were groomed. Yeah, very similar. I'll go over it later of how similar the stories are, but the outcomes were not the same. And I think the reason why the outcomes are not the same is because the Sikh community kind of formed together, especially in Birmingham, and big up to the Shere Punjab of, Birmingham, the 80s and 70s and 80s, who put themselves together. It was mainly up north, and they fought back physically, right? A lot of guys were in prison, a lot of guys, got attacked, a lot of people, really kind of wrecked their own lives to kind of stop this. And obviously, I think they found the Sikh community to be more of a harder kind of base to kind of victimize, right? Because we were going to use force, and we still will. And so they moved on to what they perceived to be an easier target, which was white girls in these areas like Rochdale, Rotherham, all of these kind of northern towns and stuff. And so I'm not saying they weren't also going for kind of like Sikh girls and Hindu girls, but I do believe that they couldn't do what they did to the, because some of the stories I've heard, reason why I wanted to do, because I hadn't actually read the cases, right, in terms of what actually happened, right? And when you read the case of what happened, it is unbelievable. I mean, obviously pedophilia is wrong and rape is wrong, but I just can't believe, some of the stuff these guys were getting up to with family members, with friends, just literally things that I couldn't even I can't even repeat what I read, right? Let alone, these guys were in rooms with friends of theirs, them doing it, right? Think about it. I can't even explain what you probably read what some of the stuff that's been put online about the actual transcript of the court case. Have you read any of the money?
I read some of it, yes.
Yeah, and some of it is just so unbelievable. Like you just can't believe what you're reading about a kid in it. It's like it's like on a next level. So yeah, I mean, a big up for Elon Musk for sort of I don't agree with everything he says, everything he does. Obviously, big up SpaceX, but I do think that him highlighting this issue, it needs to be done in it. I think there needs to be a full stop put on it, to the point that people need to start taking accountability. And the people we're talking about who are still going, oh no, well, what about white pedophiles? Oh, what about this pedophile? But why don't you go in your back garden and try and clear it, innit? Because the behavior of these guys and what they've done has basically really, really damaged not only their own community's reputation, but is damaging all communities that are from immigrant backgrounds reputations as well, because we're not involved in this shit, right? And we still get tarnished, because when you're walking on a road, people don't know that you're not from said community. They will just lump you all together, Asian grooming gangs, this and that. And we know that it's a Pakistani grooming gang, isn't it? Mainly. Obviously, there's other outliers on there, like a couple of maybe like Hindu, Sikhs, Bengalis, white people, black people, but not many though. Yeah, so that's just kind of an overview. And from my experience at Speaker's Corner, no one really took any kind of accountability and said, okay, there is a problem in the community. We're gonna, except for one person, to be honest with you. Guess who that person was?
Big ads.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to give him credit in it. Even looking back now, like sometimes you forget. And I remember him saying, I want to try and do something about this, right? And whether you like the guy or not, because he is a proper sharabbi, in it, proper alcoholic football sometimes, right? But I did give him a lot of respect, and I was like, wow, you're going to do something about it. And then everyone piled on him from his own community and said, look, what you're doing, you're basically admitting there's an issue. And then he had to back down it. So I'll give him credit where credit's due in it. Like, he did want to do something about it, but no one allowed him in it. They kind of went on top of him.
Okay, so let's tackle the first point. So, in your opinion, and please go first, and I'll go second if that's all right with you. Do you think that this is a Muslim issue, or do you think this is isolated for just as a Pakistani issue?
It's all right. So this is where it gets complicated, right? We kind of differ in opinions, right? But I do agree. Now this is going to get controversial. I do think Islam does play a part in it, but not in the way that you might think.
Okay, explain.
I believe that when you put, because all right, so all right, I'm going to give this. When you put too much restrictions on people, it can have an adverse effect, right?
Okay, you're talking about sexual.
Example would be going to prison as a straight man and then getting up the backside in it, or you doing that to somebody else, right? Because you're put in a situation where they're so restricted. There's no female companionship, and they want to release it, and they'll do anything to release it, right? And some guys, right? Obviously not me. And I believe that the strictness of Islam can cause issues, right? Because certain things that like not being able to kind of like look at women in the eyes, you must put women should be covered from top to toe, sometimes with a niqab, without it. I'm actually, weirdly, to some people might think, I actually do agree with modesty myself personally, but I don't think it's my right to say, okay, women who don't dress modestly should dress modestly, or that if they don't dress in a particular way, that they're sluts or something like that, depending. I mean, obviously if they're walking around naked, that's a different situation. Doesn't mean that they should be raped, though. I'm just saying that I would judge them in it. And I think the actual strictness of Islam causes issues, because if you're in a, let's just say a predominantly, because remember in these northern towns where this is happening, there's a lot of segregation, right? So when you're walking around, you're only around your own community, and they all covered from top to toe. There's a lot of kind of no free mixing. You can't do this, you can't do that, you can't shake a woman's hand, you can't do that. And then you go into the city or where other groups are who are more liberal, yeah, including Sikhs, and then you see their women, and in your religion, it's telling you, women that don't dress up, women that don't do this, they're seen as immoral and all that kind of stuff. Your brain's going to kind of like think, okay, these women are basically sluts, right? Because they're not behaving in the way that my faith tells me to behave, right? I'm not saying all Muslims are doing that. I'm just saying that I think this has a big problem in it, because then you're going into a Western society that doesn't abide by your standard, right? Am I kind of like explaining myself?
I think so. I completely wholeheartedly disagree with you. I mean, first and foremost, I mean, when I used to read all the grooming gang reports on the cases and what have you, one of the things that used to keep reoccurring was that the perpetrators would tell the English girls that their religion told them that because they were not Muslim, they were targets, and they were there for their pleasure, and they could do whatever they want to them, and they were essentially their property. And we even saw with cases, I think it was the Oxford or the Cambridge, I think Tommy Robinson mentioned it, where that was very much highlighted, where the girls were actually traded and passed around like their property. But then again, that happens in every single grooming gang case. And so they're not targeting Muslim girls, are they? They're specifically targeting non-Muslim girls, and it's just a case of they continuously call them whores, they call them the S word and this and the other, and they're there for their use and to do with whatever they want, and they always refer to their religion, to their book, as the source of verification for that belief. So I can't see how the two things can be split apart. Having said that, when you do look at how traditionally pimps work, those men that take on vulnerable women, get them addicted to drugs, get them addicted to them, and get them going to the street to sell themselves, their bodies, for money to give to them. It's very much the same framework, and that's exactly what the end game is. They target children because the girls are going to be likely virgins, and the attachment that a young girl, a young woman has when she loses a virginity to the man that takes them. We all know, we don't need to go down to that. So they use that attachment. This is why they use the process of spending a lot of money on them, being very nice to them. So they kind of create that fake love situation, and then when they are attached, when they have them in the palm of their hand, then they abuse them physically, emotionally, and prostitute them out essentially. And behind the scenes, what the girls don't always know, that their bodies are being sold to the other Muslim men, because it's usually Muslim men. That's why a lot of the girls are taken to Muslim-owned restaurants, to community clubs, that type of thing. So I think it's all parts and parcel. It's also the Islamic culture, but also the religion itself, and of course it's the individuals. But would it not be right to assume that if all these people, not all these people, majority of these people come from one religion, one culture, then we have to really look at the thought process of that culture and blame that also? Is that a bizarre thing to say?
No, I don't think it's. Are you going to open the panel up later?
Yeah, we can do.
Yeah, we'll get Jupiter, maybe Ultra, and a few others. Big up to everybody in the chat later, or maybe in like 20 minutes or so, because I just want to kind of just go over a few things first. Look, it's a tricky one, right? Because I do think certain practices or certain mindsets within Islam can contribute to this, right? I'm not saying it's outright the reason. So example would be, like I said before, when you're telling the man that the whole responsibility of a woman is to cover herself up, right? And the reason you do that is because then you shouldn't be looking at them. You have to put your eyes down, and basically you're kind of putting the emphasis just on the woman, right? Whereas the man can dress whatever he wants to wear, right? Whereas a woman has to cover up. It's the kind of like, okay, the woman is the temptation, which obviously is true up to a point, right? The woman is more, obviously I've never seen a man. I thought, oh yeah, but then again, I'm not gay like you guys in the chat. Unfortunately or fortunately. Another thing is, there are concepts within Islam that I think does cause problems, right? Firstly, this situation about being a kuffar, right? And I've heard it like, even when I hear Muslims talking, quite moderate Muslims, right? And they'll say, well, we're not kuffars, yeah. And the way they do it is like almost saying that the kuffar are bad people. And so we don't do what the kuffar does, right? And I think this mindset of othering the other group is problematic, right? Because you're basically, I believe, sort of kind of like, let's just say kind of, I would say, what's the word that's kind of there? That they kind of like put the other group down, right? And so already in that mindset where you say our people are better than the other people is a problem, right? Yeah, obviously everyone from different religions believe that their faith's better. But to say you as the Muslim community is better, and then you got a kind of a derogatory way of talking about the other group is bad. The other thing I think probably causes problems is the concept of right hand possessors, right? Obviously, it's that where you can have 4 wives, and then you can have as many right hand possessors. Now, obviously, they'll say that's during war, but even the fact that you have the concept, or you have that particular obligation in your faith, in your religious book, saying that you can have 4 wives and sex slaves, basically what right hand possesses, I think will screw a man's mind up, because it will make you think that, okay, obviously you will say, okay, we can go to war, and then any female captives we have, we can basically put them into sexual slavery, right? And if you're reading that, and then you're some dude in kind of like, in the UK or whatever, I'm sorry, it's going to mess your brain up, or any part of the world. I don't think it's a moral compass to have in it in a religious faith. And that's basically what they do have, right, in their faith. So example would be, in Punjab, they would have the saying, "Bare baje Sikhs pagal honde," right? Yeah, you know the saying, innit?
No, I don't actually.
So, God. So basically the saying is at 12 o'clock, Sikhs go mad. Right, it's a joke that the people say, "Bare baje Sikhs pagal honde," right? Basically, they're saying that Sikhs go mad at 12 o'clock. Now, the story behind that is quite a serious, sad story, right? But they used to mock it like the Hindus until they found out exactly what the reason was. Because the Mughals, who were obviously, from Muslim background, they used to capture Hindu and Sikh women and then have them as sex slaves, right? Because in war, that's what they would do, because they were at war. And then what the Sikhs would do, they would gather at nighttime at 12 o'clock and then go into encampments and try and save the girls, right? And so there was a saying that Sikhs go mad at 12 o'clock. But it wasn't because we're going mad for no reason. The reason they used to go mad is because they used to go and try and capture them at night, because that was the best time to do it, right? So that concept of the right hand possession and stuff, I think does messes with a man's mind, right? Because I'm trying to think about it. If I was to have in Sikhi that I could have sex slaves, I'm sorry, that would mess my brain up, innit? I'll be like, hold on a second, I can have sex slaves. Like, you know, how is that morally right? So I do think Islam plays a part in it in a way, but I do think also the Pakistani culture is a big factor in these northern towns. Yeah, and I think it's even if you narrow it down even more, it's the Meepuri culture. You know, people from Meepur or Kashmir.
But that's fair enough. But then when we go to different countries and we look at rape and grooming gangs there, whether it's Holland, you know, they don't call it grooming gangs, they call it the lover boy technique. Or they have similar gangs which are Tunisian, Moroccan in Spain, and you know there's Turkish gangs in Germany. I think somebody told me here on a live stream who's from Norway that there were Somalian gangs in Norway. That's you know, that's, I haven't got an article to represent that right now, but you know, but when we have a look at it that way, you know, it's like, well, it's not just an issue in the UK. And then also, you know, you will know as a dedicated Sikh that you know, even as far back at the start of the Sikh religion, this stuff was going on where they were targeting Sikh girls even far back then.
Yeah. I mean, that's why the saying, you know, what I said about the saying, what it came about. So there has been a history of it, right? Because it's within, whether Muslims like it or not, they have to understand it. It's within your faith. It's written in the Quran, obviously, that you can have your 4 wives and then what your right hand possesses. And to me, a right hand possess is basically a slave or somebody captured during war, and that they're basically what's it called, subject to their captor's whims, in it. And if they want to have to be sex slaves, they're going to be sex slaves. And I think just the mindset of that. Also, you know, Sam M, big up to Sam M, brings up another point. I do think that age of consent issue is a problem as well, because I've spoken to Muslims, and sometimes when I've spoken to them, and that's basically across the board, they have this kind of like not a fixed, what I call kind of like idea of age of consent. And obviously things do change over time and things like that. But I don't see somebody who's 16 and under, they're basically like a kid in it, right? And then when they're 16 to 18, they become like teenagers. And when they're 18 plus, they'll start going into adulthood, but they're not in adulthood. So example would be, you know, people would say, well, if they look like adults, right? But remember when I try and put myself back when I was 14, 15, dude, the things I used to believe or think were true, or just basically, you know, my mindset was like so kind of like, you know, easily manipulated, let's just say, right, at that age, because you're so naive, right? And so their mindset, because sometimes they say, well, they were 14 or whatever. Dude, when you're 14, you're not mentally capable to make decisions, right? Now, I don't personally think, you know, I'm not going to go into the rights or wrongs of prostitution, right? Because I don't think that's the case here. But if somebody's saying an adult and they willingly want to do it, look, I'm not going to stop you in it. Yeah, it's not my right to stop you. If you want to do it, you do it. But a child cannot make a decision that they want to start prostituting themselves out, which sometimes I've heard people say, well, yeah, well, she was just going here and she got some money from it. She wanted it. I'm sorry. It's not something that, you know, like should even be going through your brain, right? And I think that's also a problem, the age of consent. And you can hear loads of videos, like, especially of Muhammad Hijab. I think there's a video online of him talking to somebody and basically trying to say that a 14-year-old who's got, you know, wide hips and breasts and stuff is basically a woman, in it. Like, he's just saying it outright, in it. So they're just looking at the physical attributes, not looking at the mental kind of capabilities of the people. And I think that's a massive problem. If your biggest kind of like preachers like Muhammad Hijab, Ali Dawa, all these guys are saying that, yeah, let's just say that they don't have a fixed age, in it. And I think that there's a lot of kind of like victim blaming where they're going, well, they knew what they were doing in it, like when they're 14 or 13 or 14, right? And I think that's like pretty sick as well, in my opinion.
So let's just talk about before they started targeting English white girls, they were targeting Sikh girls, and like you mentioned previously, the Sikh community formed a group called Shere Punjab and essentially went to war with the gangs, literally, and that kind of diverted the gang's attention towards the British white girls. From what I can see, I'm not saying that they no longer targeted Sikh girls, because they do also, but really they kind of diverted their attention more towards children or girls from working class white families. So, and the question for you is it as simple as that? Until Tommy Robinson came along, there was nobody that had any movement against the grooming gangs like Shere Punjab. Is it as simple as that, or is there more to it? To why?
I do think it's as simple as that, because I was of the age. Obviously, I'm old in it now, but I remember in the 70s and the 80s, right? And I just kept on hearing stories about fights in Birmingham, in all these northern towns. Like London's very different to up north. I have to just differentiate, because I live in a predominantly not anymore, but I did in a predominantly Pakistani area, right? In the area that I'm in, Leighton, Waltham Forest. It's changed a bit now because we've gone up market, obviously gentrified, and now we've got like lots of different like people around it. But it used to be mainly Pakistani, right? And in this area, most of the Pakistanis are actually Punjabi, right? And from the Punjab. And I don't recall there being any grooming around it. Now, if anyone can find me anything in East London, predominantly, because remember, there's a massive Pakistani community here. So I think it's the second largest outside of Birmingham, I think, or Bradford, I don't know. And I don't remember it happening, but I do remember constantly hearing about there was this fight up north, and I used to try and figure out what was going on. And then it always used to go back to there's Pakistani guys pretending to be Sikhs. This is the kind of like what I used to hear at the time. Yeah, they would go to say clubs, right? Because most clubs at the time, with Bhangra and stuff, most of the people used to go were Sikhs, right? Because especially girls, because the Muslim community had a very tight hold on their women, right? But the guys could go out and do whatever they wanted. So I remember going to clubs, right? And majority of the people would be Sikh in terms of girls, and then or Hindus, and then the guys would be kind of a bit more mixed, right? And I've actually seen it in my own eyes where Pakistani guys are wearing ghare. So a Sikh wears a bangle, right? And that's part of an article of faith. And I used to see Pakistani guys wearing bangles, chatting up Sikh girls, and there used to be fights and all that kind of stuff. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to chat a girl up, be honest in it. Don't pretend you're from a different faith. It's like me or you pretending to be, I don't know, Muslim, and then trying to chat up Muslim girls, right? And saying my name's Akbar or something, right? And then you're chatting them up and then you get them in a relationship. And then once they're in a relationship, then what they do, they switch it up, right? They switch it up. They tell them, that they're not. And then in some cases, I'm not saying all, it would then lead on to more nefarious things where once they've got them hooked, they would then start to, I don't know, pass them around friends, right? Get them drunk. So the Pakistani guys from my understanding never used to drink. Now, obviously, we have the shrubbies like Ards and all that. But in my day, Pakistanis never used to drink. It was always Sikhs, right, that used to drink at that time. And, obviously, Sikhism is against alcohol, but they used to drink. And so they used to manipulate the girls, get them drunk. And then some of them, they used to then fully prostitute out. And that's when Shere Punjab was formed, from my understanding, in Birmingham, right, originally in the 70s. And also, there was a documentary which I'm going to play now. It's only a few minutes, so we can go for up and double the speed in it, just to show you that this documentary was from 1986, I think, and it's about the grooming epidemic that was happening in Birmingham, and then all the fights that were going on, because most of the fights were about Pakistani guys either pretending to be Sikh, trying to get girls and stuff like that. And then on top of that, you'd have other situations where once they've got them ensnared, they will start to prostitute them out and stuff like this, right? And what does that sound like, Manny? It's a similar kind of tactic that Pakistanis did with the white girls, but instead of using religion, they would still use the alcohol in the kebab shops. They'll pretend to be friends of theirs, go out with them as like, oh, I'm your boyfriend. And then it's the same, operate, the same kind of memo, right? Basically the same kind of way they would do it, but just slightly different. So let me just play this for a minute. And so you lot can see, I'll kind of speed it up a bit. Let me just get onto this thing here. Remember, they're going to say in this program that the girls are going to say, oh, because I think what they did, they filmed these very young, kind of like what I call naive Sikh girls, just kind of make it look like, oh, it wasn't an issue, right? Oh, somebody goes, oh, they can't tell me what to do, but the Sikhs were trying to help the girls, innit? They were trying to say to these guys that you think are your boyfriends are actually very, very, very kind of like, they're going to manipulate you and I'm not saying all of them, they might actually even, go further and put you into a difficult situation, but they didn't know that at the time. So let me just play this one. Is it up? Yeah, so this is from 1988, right? Tell me if you can hear it.
Have created havoc and fear in London.
So the title is Sikh Girls Pakistani Muslim Gang, Shere Punjab. It was from Network East, which is a BBC Two program in the 80s. So just have a listen to this and tell me what you can.
In some areas, knifings and shotgun attacks are commonplace. But recently, gangs and gang warfare has started to spread outside the capital. In Birmingham, the Shere Punjab and Panthers, two of the biggest gangs in the Midlands, are inflaming old tensions between the Sikh and Muslim communities. Fatima Salaria investigates.
But most of this causes by the Pakistani community itself. When young people go outside schools, I'm about ages around about 19 to 20, they go in their fancy sports cars, hang about.
We don't want them going out with Pakistanis, right? We know what happens to them after.
See, can you hear from the beginning? Guys are going outside schools. They're in their mid-20s. The girls out of the school are very impressionable in sports cars, and they're like, the girls are like maybe 13, 14, maybe even younger, and they're picking them up, right? And so, obviously, the first two guys are Sikhs, right? They're not wearing turbans, but they're Sikhs.
The Sikhs, we might not admit it or whatever, right? But there's a lot of Sikh girls going out with Muslim guys, and they don't like it.
We've grown up here, and we think we can mix with anybody if we really want to make a relationship work. So their attitude is, from the dark ages. I don't know why suddenly they've decided that they're Indian and that's how they want to stay.
Birmingham is not a city that's usually associated with gang warfare, and such tensions within the Asian community are even more rare. But over the last few months, there's been a dramatic increase in tension between...
So if you look here, 2 knifed in street gang battle, family hitting bombs attack, gang battles, fair shoppers scattering streeters battles, there was shotguns, everything. I mean, it used to be crazy, I'm telling you. Yeah. Nah, that's not me. I'll try. Good.
Between young Muslims and Sikhs. They formed themselves into 2 gangs. The Panthers, who operate in the predominantly Muslim area of Aston, while the Shere Punjab stronghold is the Sikh-dominated Handsworth. The trouble started when Sikhs began making allegations about the conduct who's been dealing with the gangs for some time.
The starting point was that somebody, allegedly, the Shere Punjab had leaflets out saying that the Muslim youths are coming around our schools, they're, abducting our girls, and, they're raping them and then putting them in prostitution.
Okay, what does that sound like? What does that sound like, Manny?
Yeah, exactly what they're doing at the moment.
Yeah. So going outside, this is going outside schools, or what they would do, go outside foster homes where kids were basically put into foster care. And then what they would do, they'll pick them up, they'll do the lovable boy thing, okay, we love you, and then they'll start pimping them out, right? Now, this is so you have to ask, is everyone lying to the Pakistani community? Are we all lying? How is this story from 20, 30, 40 years ago still being denied? Yeah, when it was happening with the Sikh community and obviously the Hindu community as well, and then went on to the white community. Either we're all conspiring against you through time and going back in time and putting these videos up, or there's truth to what we are saying or what we've been saying.
And it was these allegations which sparked off a spate of incidents involving the 2 gangs.
See, disorder in Handsworth between Sikhs and Muslim youth, attacked inside road by Sikhs. Fight, remember I said discos, these were like Bhangra gigs. Sikh youth stabbed, no arrest. Yeah, see, possession of a pump shotgun, fight outside the Portland club, 24 arrested. So it wasn't some little kind of like, little kind of like, what I call kind of like scrap. It was going on all the time. I used to remember all the time this kind of stuff being heard about in Birmingham and places like that.
The Aston Panthers were formed in 1981. They claimed they came together to protect the Asian community from racial attacks.
We had a lot of trouble with the skinheads them days. We used to fight with the skinheads. And there was a group of us, right? And first we didn't have the name, but after we just thought the name, so we thought we'd have a name like.
The Panthers vehemently reject claims by the Shere Punjab that they are forcing Sikh girls to go out with them.
They go out with us from their own free will. If they don't want to go out with us, that doesn't mean that, and we do not rape them. We do not embarrass them in any such way as they have been saying that the Muslim youth do.
Whatever the truth of the matter, it's clear that many Sikh youth resent Muslims going out with young Sikh women. In May this year, they formed the Shere Punjab to try to stop such liaisons developing.
Our aim is to get all these schools free of people standing outside them. We want a normal life. Girls can go to school, come back home without being picked up and taken out to town, taken out to discos, stuff like that. As long as that stops, we're happy.
Is that unreasonable to say that as a man?
Definitely.
Is it unreasonable to want our sisters, our daughters to go to school? Remember school. And to not be picked up by men in their 20s or thingy, and then driven around to clubs and stuff and giving alcohol. Is that unreasonable? I'm going to ask everybody, including, Pakistani community. Is that unreasonable? No, it's not. Everybody should be able to go to school without the fear of being mistreated by these lunatics, right? And targeted. So, it's unbelievable that some people still think, okay, well, they made a big deal out of it. Oh, what's the problem? They're going out with this because they were Pakistani. Listen, if you, as a Pakistani guy, met a Sikh girl and you fell in love, look, I'm not going to say nothing in it, like whatever in it. But if you have met that girl outside of school, and then what you've done, you pretended to be from a different religion to ensnare her, and then once you've got her kind of like fallen in love with you, you then start to kind of, well, I'm not actually Sikh. I'm actually, Pakistani or a Muslim. I don't care. That's unforgivable, right? Then on top of that, if you then go to the next stage, you'll start to try and, kind of passing around mates and all that, getting it drunk and then passing around mates, and then after that, you start pimping around. I'm sorry, that is complete depravity, right? And this is what was happening originally with Sikhs, right? And the thing is, before everyone said, oh, that didn't listen, I've seen it with my own eyes. Let me tell you a story, Manny. I was at college, right? I used to go to only college. So I'm from Walthamstow, right? Near that area, Leighton. So I used to go to colleges only in that area. So most of the people at those colleges in Stratford and a place called Walthamstow, mainly black, white, and Pakistani, right? And some Bengalis and some Asians. I was very rarely, I was around Sikhs, right? Until I was 18, 19. I then went to a different area, which is called Redbridge, which is a little bit further out. And in that area, there's a lot of Sikhs as well, right? Now, when I was there was a guy that used to walk around with a Quran. His name was Shere, right? And Shere can be a Sikh name and a Muslim name, Pakistani name, but I didn't know at the time. And he was walking around here for a couple of weeks and stuff with a Quran, right? And he made it so that people thought he was Sikh, right? I even thought he was Sikh. And it was only a while later, I remember someone saying this guy got beaten up, blah, blah, blah. I was like, why'd they beat him up? He said, he was pretending to be Sikh and he was going to clubs and stuff and doing stupid things. I don't know if he was trying to chat girls up, but the fact that you would even do that is just ridiculous, right? Yeah. And I've seen it in clubs. I've seen fights break out because of it. I've seen it at Mille. I've even seen it in Birmingham, Nagar Kirtan, which is a Vaisakhi festival, where Pakistani guys have come to the Mella or Nagar Kirtan, like a festival, Sikh festival, where religious, and try to chat up girls at our festivals, right? And they get their asses handed to them. Because imagine Sikhs going to a Muslim kind of event and trying to chat up girls, even though there wouldn't be no women there, unless it's like, Eid on thingy. It's just unacceptable. And so this kind of behavior is unacceptable, right? There's rules and regulations that normal people have, right? Which when you start crossing, there's going to be a couple of reactions in it, and one of them from the Sikhs was like a slap in the mouth. And I'm not saying the Pakistanis could fought back as well. I'm not gonna lie, they fought back, so it wasn't like an easy fight. A lot of people, got hurt. A lot of people went in prison and stuff. So yeah. So let me just carry on playing this bit. Hold on.
The evident desire to stop Sikhs and
Let me just play that a bit.
Our aim is to get all these schools free of people standing outside them. We want a normal life. Girls can go to school, come back home.
I'm going to play it again.
In May this year, they formed the Shere
I think
such
people
liaisons
need-
developing.
Our aim is to get all these schools free of people standing outside them. We want a normal life. Girls can go to school, come back home without being picked up and taken out of town, taken out to discos, stuff like that. As long as that stops, we're happy.
The evident desire to stop Sikhs and Muslims mixing has led directly to clashes, and innocent bystanders have inevitably become victims of this growing menace of gang warfare. The Guild Arms is a well-established public house in a quiet part of Aston. But in June this year, a large gang of Asian youths, disguised in masks, burst into the building.
Well, I was working behind bar when 30 to 40 youths came through the lounge door, and they just started smashing up everything. Gambling machines and chairs, tables, glasses. I smashed up all that.
So basically, this guy's a Sikh guy, and so the people that come in there, from my understanding, were like Pakistani.
The furniture was smashed and all the windows. They smashed every window. So we heard the rumors saying they came to look for somebody, some sort of gangs there. It wasn't local, that's for sure.
It's against this background of violence that the most serious allegations have been made. The Shere Punjab claim that young Sikh women have been abducted and raped. They say they've given evidence, including names and the number plates of the offenders' cars, to the authorities.
The police promised us that they'll do the job if we step out of the way, and we stepped out of the way for a couple of months. Things just happened in the past couple of days, and information was passed to them, and we haven't heard nothing being done.
Okay, so once again, another issue that we have to highlight: the lack of consequences for people basically reporting crimes and the police turning a blind eye. This is a perfect example of what's happened first to the Sikh community and then it happened to the white community. Now, the reason why this is important is because if a criminal of any whatever criminal act they do, if they believe they can get away with it, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to carry on. Not only that, they'll bring more people into it because they say, look, police aren't doing nothing. And so this kind of situation with the Sikhs, then at some point, no community, and I'm going to say this before everyone goes, oh, Raj, you're kind of like trying to instigate riots and stuff. No, I'm not. I'm saying no community should, be kind of like, made to feel ashamed that if they kind of defend their women, being kind of raped and groomed, that they are the bad guys, right, for doing it. You should be able to defend that. I think it's rightfully so that you should be able to defend your own community if the police aren't going to intervene.
Network East approached the police in Handsworth. We asked Chief Superintendent David Love whether he'd received any evidence.
Personally, no, and I certainly don't know of any being received. Not in the specific terms that you're saying in terms of vehicle numbers.
And have you ever been given any information regarding the rapes or the abductions of women?
To the best of my knowledge, no.
In this prostitution and drug trafficking, it's ridiculous. I mean, there's nothing there which...
Listen to this guy, man. Just listen to him. There's nothing there. And now we know from all these... I mean, remember, the people that have been convicted is a tip of the iceberg, right? Is a tip of the iceberg.
Which in evidence, and also the youngsters that you're dealing with every day, there's no way that those people will be involved in anything like that.
Amidst the claims and counterclaims, the only views that have been ignored are those of the alleged victims, the young Sikh women.
I think it's totally stupid. Why? I mean, it's a free country. Anybody can go out with anybody. These Shere Punjab came up to me as well, and I was going out with this Muslim, right? Well, I wasn't actually going out, but he asked me out, and then the Shere Punjab came up to me and started saying stupid things. Oh, you can't go out with him. You know what I mean? They can go out whoever they like. So, why are they stopping us? They shouldn't stop Sikh boys as well, shouldn't they? They can stop Sikh girls.
In spite of their opinions, it's clear that the young men are determined to stop Sikh girls going out.
See, they kind of, towards the end, they're kind of trying to twist it into this. Sikh girls don't like their women going out with Muslim guys, right, or Pakistani guys. If the Pakistani guy that whoever this girl is, these Sikh girls are going out with, were upstanding guys who were basically treating them right, or not lying to them about being Sikhs and all that. Because if you're going into a relationship by lying, saying that you're a Sikh, which happened loads, even the Sikh girls admit this. They met the guy, thought that he was a Sikh, he told them he was a Sikh, and then we found out later that he wasn't. Then by that time, I was in love with him, so I was going to stay with him, right? Even that, the basis of your relationship, starting off with a lie, is disrespectful, right? At the base, even at a basic. But when you're going on to doing other things, these girls at that time didn't understand that these guys they're talking about oh, they're kind of, we want to go out with them, or they want to go out with them. Fair enough. If you want to have a relationship, that's okay, isn't it? But don't expect, if we know that these particular group of people, guys, these Pakistani guys, might, I'm not saying all of them, there might be a high percentage, or maybe 70%, that they're going to abuse you. Why should we just stand back and say, okay, we're going to let it happen, right? Obviously, there would have been cases where there were genuine couples who, probably may not have, may have got into a relationship in a legitimate way, and the guy was a good dude and he didn't do anything. I'm not going to say that didn't happen. It probably did. Maybe once, people got caught in the crossfire and stuff. But majority of them, I think, were probably done because they knew the guy was an arsehole, innit?
Out with Muslims, and the tension, it seems, is set to continue.
I mean, if the Sikhs go out and beat people up, say that don't go out with this girl because she's Sikh girl, that cannot be done. That will never be done here in England.
I mean, this kind of small incidents could escalate in the wider community, and the pre-47 tensions between Sikhs and Muslims could come across.
Well, if things carry on as if the daytime discourse open again, and then people go outside the schools, exactly what happened before, same thing's going to happen, because there's no way we're going to back out of the way now.
Yeah. So yeah, 20. Yeah, Veli, I still believe that people don't believe it's happened. Big up Veli in it. I still believe that people think, okay, this is just kind of like propaganda from Sikhs. So, well, they didn't like our girls going out with. No. That's not the case. No community would like their girls or their daughters or sisters going out with guys who their community has a reputation of mistreating the girls because they're not Muslim or Pakistani. And then even in the worst case scenario, is pimping them out. Is that unreasonable, Manny, to not want them? Even if, say it's 7 out of 10 of the guys that might do something like this, and should.
Well, look at it this way: if the Sikh girls were, willing to go out with these Muslim men, like they're trying to portray that the Sikh girls were, then there was no need to groom them, would there? Would there be? The fact that they had to groom them. And lie to them and be deceitful.
Yeah, this is the thing that used to really grate on me the most, right? The amount of times, the girl, because even girls that said, "Oh well, I love my boyfriend," because I got in. I used to hear a lot of stories, right? Because I had to get. I don't want to go into it, but basically we had a problem with my college, and we had to get Shere Punjab involved. I wasn't in Shere Punjab, but we had to get them involved, right? Because we were getting attacked and stuff for opening a Sikh society by Majid Nawaz and his crew in it, and when he was a lunatic. And so we started to hear these like real stories, right? Like about brothers telling us and stuff like this would happen and that would happen, because we used to go around the country sometimes. And the thing is, the one thing that used to always come up was the guy pretended to be a Sikh, right? Would wear kara, or when he's at a club, he would change his name, or if he was outside, he would tell them, and then he would ensnare the girl in, right? And then what you would do is then go, okay, I'm not a Pakistani, or I'm not a Sikh. I'm actually thinking by that point the girl's gonna kind of falling in love with you. Now that's just that I wouldn't consider to be like the word. Obviously, still in a way grooming, right? And that is totally unacceptable. I don't care what anyone says. A father should be upset by that, right? Imagine one of us two going out, and then pretending to be Muslim. And saying we're Pakistani or thinking, and then getting Pakistani girls, and then go, okay, then once the girls fall in love, you say, no, I'm actually a Sikh, right? No one would accept that, right? And then obviously, like I said, that was the baseline of the least serious part of it. Then it would start going into some of the girls being kind of passed around the mates because they're not Muslim, right? So they'll be passed around, they're not Pakistani, so they were seen as sluts, right? And they would drink, they'll get them drunk. And then there was a next level where they start actually pimping them out. Right, so there was levels to the kind of seriousness of what would happen, right? And so I'm sorry, the same situation has happened with the white community in what's it called in all these towns, right? Now, also to ultra and these let's just say the black community, they did something that happened. Remember in Birmingham when there was the riots? Remember?
Yes.
What did the riot start over?
A black girl was targeted.
Yes. Whether that was true or not, what did the black community do?
They taught them a lesson that they've never.
Did they ever do it again?
No.
All right. So I'm not saying violence is always the way, but it does show you when a community kind of gets together and says, "Hold on, we're not letting the girl from this community be groomed or like molested, and they tear the city apart. I'm not saying that's right per se, but it did teach them a lesson in it in Birmingham. Like, you know, you never hear of anyone going, "Oh, black girls are being groomed," right? Because they know they're going to get their ass caned if the black community kind of find out in it. So the white community obviously is in a difficult situation because they can be accused of being racist, and that, you know, the reason they don't like it is because, okay, they kind of like got prejudice against the people, and so they're in a difficult situation. I think that's how it's kind of escalated out of control from the white community, unfortunately, and they've now had the brunt for like 20-30 years.
And then that kind of brings in personalities such as yourself and I, who know a large number of British white people, are friends with a large number of British white people, and we kind of understand, you know, we understand both cultures, and because we do stand on the side of truth and justice, and we do stand up against these grooming gangs, these rape gangs, these religious rape gangs, then, you know, because we support the British white community in their plight, then we are attacked, because then that makes the opposing group look stupid when they're calling them racist.
Yeah, because the thing is, it's not what I call racist. When you say, because when you read the stories of this, I mean, I've not read the stories before, right? I just heard this happen over there. Some of the stories are so insane that only a community that is broken in the Pakistan, I'm talking about the Pakistani community, that it could happen. So there's a massive cultural issue. Because I'll give you an example is, girl goes to police station after being raped, right? She goes to the police station, she's like 13 years old, right? Then the police don't do nothing because they don't want to, oh yeah, you know, she was drunk or something like that. So they send her home. As she's going home, she gets picked up by some guys, Pakistani guys. Now, remember, she's a child, right? So whoever says, oh, she's a slut, she's a child, right? She then goes in with these guys and they rape her, right? 2 or 3 guys. Then they drop her off, right? As she's coming out, she tries to get help. Somebody else picks her up from Pakistani background, and then he rapes her. This is the thing, what I'm trying to say to people is that this is like totally on another scale of what I would say depravity, right? Because obviously all abuse is wrong, right? But could you imagine that happening in a white community, a Sikh community, a black community or something? Can you imagine that happening? Just think about it. Because what would happen is what would happen is that, you know, it's just not possible to happen. Because I'm telling you straight, if one of my family members found out that I was doing something, I'd have my head kicked in, right? I'd have my head, even in kind of like even trying to say something like this. But the problem is, and this is where, you know, the Pakistani community really needs to look inwards. How is it that brothers, uncles, family members, friends can meet a young girl who's like 12, 13 in a kebab shop or something, taxi drivers, and then gang rape them together? How is this possible? How does this mindset come about where you can even talk about it, let alone do it?
So do you think it's completely radical for non-Muslims not to want to be around these people?
Well, obviously, it's not about whether we want to be around certain people or not. The people are here, innit? The people are here, and what needs to happen is that those people, their children, need to be taken out of this mindset, whatever this mindset is. Because I have to say, I don't think that mindset's in London, because otherwise I would have heard loads of grooming cases in London. There's so many Pakistanis in my area. If it was happening here and they had the same mindset, there's something in these northern towns where they've been ghettoized, and their perception of non-Muslim or Pakistani girls are so warped that they don't even see them as human beings anymore. They just see them as meat in it, and they don't even care about their age. They don't care about anything here, and they will do it with their family members. And before even say, right, that it's happened, just look at the convictions. There's one where there's like 4 brothers, Think about brothers. And there's another one I read, that this is why I think people are really angry, because they've read the actual transcript. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, obviously when children are being abused, we understand it's disgusting, right? I read one that was on such another level. Like, I don't know if you know the one I'm talking about.
Which one? Sorry.
It was basically Elon Musk posted it. It was a 12-year-old girl, and should I say it? I don't know if I say it. It's really disgusting.
Is this the one where she was kicked out from somewhere? Then another Muslim picked her up and raped her.
No. I've already told you that one. There's another one, which is in my opinion as bad or even worse.
Go on, then you're gonna have to.
All right, so I'm going to just say that, people, this is very, very graphic, and it is in the court documents. I don't want to read it. I will just tell you what I remember. The 12-year-old girl, she basically a lover boy kind of thing. The Pakistani guy made her fall in love. So they would, then what he did was that he started passing around friends, right? And in order to anally rape her, he used to put this device in her passage, right? To expand it. And the story, the court documents is that at sometimes there was 4 men on her. And you understand what I'm saying? 4, 12 years old, right? Just think about the madness and 4 guys, right, on one girl. And this was the norm, innit? I've never heard of anything like, even in the worst paedophile cases.
I've heard one of the Shere Punjab lads tell a story where they burst into an apartment and there were 4 or 5 older Muslim men with the beards around one heavily intoxicated girl. So I have heard that type of thing before, obviously not to that graphic detail.
Yeah, I mean, it's on Elon Musk's Twitter page. I don't know if he's taken it down, but the thing is that it's just the level of madness and the fact that, obviously, all right, all pedophilia is wrong. Before everyone goes, you're only caring about one thing. The problem with this situation is that it was so culturally acceptable within the community. Remember, it's a very small communities, these places in Rotherham and Rochdale. It's not like London where it's massive. And so people must have known. At the bare minimum, they must have known something was going on. Most people, right? That these guys were doing stuff like this, right? The men, 100% the men knew, right? Most of them probably knew something. The women, I'm not so sure about. But the fact that it was something, because one of the guys is now a Deliveroo driver or something, one of the main guys. And the thing is that, I'm sorry, if you've immigrated here and you're not a British citizen, I think you should be deported, innit? If you're a first-generation immigrant, and then you've committed a crime like this. I think murder, child rape, just deport them, innit? If they've not become a full citizen. Obviously, their children is going to be different. But the guy, they just deport him, innit? Because the guy, they tried to deport him for 10 years and they haven't managed to do it, right? They haven't managed to. He was still working as a driver or something. And there's something else. I don't know if you can you play Twitter stuff?
Yeah, we can. But I also want to discuss Starmer.
Go on. You can open the panel up if you want.
So Starmer obviously doesn't want an inquiry into the rape gangs, and there could be a number of reasons for that. Obviously, he has a history of protecting paedophiles and child rapists from his time at the CPS. And also, we've seen that the grooming gang seem to be operating in labour-heavy areas. So that could be another reason. And of course, I don't know how many reports of the grooming gangs you have read, but there has been times where counsellors have been involved in one way or another. And in fact, Tommy Robinson kind of highlighted that. I think in the Telford one or one of the other councils.
Yeah, and the police were, some of the police guys were involved as well.
That's right.
So the cover up, the government needs to be kind of like doing a in-depth report about this, right? And on top of that, they need to basically not get kind of like caught up in the kind of, we're going to be called racist, right? Or we're saying that certain cultures are backward. Yeah, certain cultures are backward. I'm sorry. They just are. Like, if a culture is, let's just say so that, people can't say I'm racist, that, a couple of 100 years ago, Indians were burning their wives, or not all the time, but if the man died, there was something called sati, right? And so the people are saying that's a bad culture. Yeah, it's a bad culture. It's not racist to say that, is it? In the UK, people used to in the past, in Norway as well, the Vikings used to do the same thing, but they stopped it as well. It's a bad culture, right? It's not something that you should be thinking. So calling out, because I'm not a cultural relativist, I think, where you think that all cultures are equal. No, they're not. Some cultures are backwards, some cultures aren't. And so, you know, or some cultures are better than others, right? And so this kind of cultural mindset that you can go around with family members and all kind of stuff like this is sick, innit? This is really sick. Like, you know, because I think Veli's saying about, you know, like, no one's denying really that within the UK, which is majority white, that the majority of what you would consider to be lone pedophiles or, you know, these kind of pedophile rings, right, are not the majority white, right? No one's saying that. What is very disturbing about this situation is that whereas with those white pedophile rings, the authorities will come down hard on them if they found them. Yeah. That didn't happen with the Pakistani grooming gangs, right? No. That particular situation was that the government or the councils or the police turned a blind eye. Imagine if the story about this girl getting passed around from different men to different men was a white guy. Those white people, they would have been in prison. I'm telling you straight. Yeah, they would have been in prison. There's no doubt about it, right?
So do you like many people see how the members of the Muslim community seem to be getting a different level of treatment than to the rest of the people? Do you see that, or are you have you not spotted that in any shape or form?
What do you mean? Just elaborate a bit.
So as we saw with the riot, for example, mobs of Muslim men were kind of ignored by the authorities, whereas any gathering by you know, the British community, the English community, was seen as dangerous rioters and this and the other, even though the members of the Muslim community were clearly carrying weapons with far more threatening behavior, sometimes, not always, sometimes.
Yeah, so, no. I think the situation with that...
But before you come in, but this is not just about the riots and stuff. I mean, if you actually look at the grooming gang rape gangs, you know, police turning the other eye, council turning the other eye, social workers actually bringing the rapist and the child together. In one occasion, the social worker attending a date with both the Muslim man and the child that he had groomed. So that's what I mean. I mean, okay, you could argue that that's not favor to that particular rapist because he's Muslim. That was a favor because the establishment just favors anybody that abuses children. I suppose that is a conversation we can have, but nonetheless, there is plenty of examples that the Muslim community are being favored in many ways.
All right. So when it comes to the grooming, I do believe the Pakistani community was basically given a sort of a free pass almost for thanks, Lid, a free pass for God knows how long. And because of that, it escalated because like any criminal, if they believe they can get away with it, they'll continue to do it. And the people that are on the outskirts who are kind of morally ambiguous, if they think they can get away with it, they'll do it as well, right? Yeah, they were just jumping, and I think that's what happened. Now, when it comes to the riots, my views are different from yours. If this is what I'm going to say, if let's just say a group of white people were to come to Leighton, and they're kind of like, you know, very angry, and they can't tell the difference between me and any other group, I'll probably arm myself, innit, if I'm being honest with you. Even though I would know that, you know, maybe they might not do nothing. So I think, you know, if someone's come to someone's area where they're predominantly Pakistani and they come out with bats and stuff, I don't really have an issue with that, in it, to be honest with you. It is an issue when the police say, okay, you can carry it, but the other side can't. That's where the problem starts happening, in it. But if people come up with bats and stuff like that, and people are coming to your area where you got your mother and your sisters, do what you're going to do in it to protect yourself. I don't even have to agree with you on everything, but I don't think that's the right way to police it, where they were just kind of targeting mainly the white group, because then it made it look like they only care about if the white people were having weapons on them, whereas both sides had them as well. Yeah, do you
Right.
agree with that? Or I mean, you can open the panel up. Bring on if you want to bring anyone on.
Yeah. Nobody's really said that they want to come on, but let me.
Was Jupiter not on there?
Jupiter usually just asks for a link, to be honest. But there's the link if somebody
Well,
wants to
if
come
anyone
on.
wants to come on, as long as they're not trolling, innit? Yeah, it's complicated, isn't it? It's complicated. Yeah, I still do believe that it's a. Although I'm not going to say it's like a Muslim grooming gangs, I'm still going to say it's Pakistani, mainly Pakistani Muslim grooming gangs, because I think it's unfair to other Muslims of different backgrounds, especially certain. And I'm going to say this because, I used to know a lot of Bengalis, right? As I was growing up, some of my best mates have been Bengali, and I'm going to be honest with you, they didn't really like Pakistanis themselves because of this issue.
Let's check that.
Oh, Jupiter, how you doing?
Yeah, doing
Oh,
well. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Hi, Jupes. How you doing?
Yeah, have you
Yeah,
heard
well, I've got a bit of a sore voice, so you can hear I'm a bit croaky.
Oh, that's all right. That's all right. Have you been listening?
Yes, I have, and well, first of all, Raj, I think you've been vindicated. You know, when you suffered all that harassment because you said it was predominantly Pakistani Muslims.
Yeah.
I think you've been completely vindicated on that. I think that, well, people that were around at the time and knew the Tommy movement and that knew that was true anyway. But you've been completely vindicated because even the members of parliament now are admitting that it's predominantly Pakistani. But of course, we've still got the one or two idiots that are still trying to cover it up. I think Farage has just called one of the MPs out because they're trying to say it's racist to say that. And of course, it's not. It's a reality.
But the usual suspects still saying the same thing from the streams because I've not been listening.
Yeah, so we're still getting the same deflections of, oh, well, the majority of group-based sexual crimes against children are from white men. And it doesn't matter how many times you say, yes, we accept that. We know that if you look at child sexual exploitation, the majority is white because we're in a majority country in Britain. But we're talking about grooming gangs exclusively. It's a different...
But also, I think you need to highlight the fact that there's no white people saying that, okay, there's not an issue with pedophilia, right, within the world, right? Also, if, like the story, let's just go through that story about that girl that went to the police station. She was like 12, 13. She was then told to go home, and then she was picked up with a group of Pakistani guys, raped by them. Then she was taken out the car. Then another group of Pakistani guys come, they raped her, and then she tried to go, and then she was raped again. Do you believe that if that was a white people doing that to a girl, would they be in prison or not? Because I 100% know they would be in prison.
Definitely, and that is the thing. This is what we're trying to get across to people, that they don't have a problem in shaming white. But I mean, look at the riots. I know it's not the same thing, but they didn't have a problem putting their faces up and shaming them and letting their names be out there. And this is all that people are asking for. That we want. The J inquiry was good. It did go quite deep, but it didn't go deep enough. So I've got no problem with the implementations of that. But as Kemi Badenoch has stated in Parliament, you can implement two things at once. You don't have to have just one or the other. And we do need the people that were in powerful positions and public positions and positions of authority that turned a blind eye in the past, even now, making sure that they're not in position still, that they're not working with children, that they can't go on to work in other arenas with children, and that we know exactly why it's happening. I mean, we know why it's happening, but we need the major public to recognise why it's happening, and we need the Parliament to admit why it's happening. And
the thing is that it's the cover up that is basically, I think, one of the main kind of like sticking points, right? Because if you was to get all of these crimes that I've read about, and it was a white group of men, they would. I personally believe that 90% of them would have been arrested and charged, right? But there's so many guys have gone free or have not been arrested. They're saying it's like a tip of the iceberg. I guarantee you, There's so many guys in these northern towns that were part to the party of this or knew about this, that either participated, and they are still walking free in it. And that's the main thing.
Yeah.
That people have not been brought to justice. Not the fact that they it's the fact that the police, the councils, the government, they were all too frightened to kind of put the like protect these girls because they don't want to be considered to be kind of bigoted.
The only reason that you would need to look up the background of why it happened is to find it that if there is a way of treating it socially so that it doesn't continue to occur. That's the only reason.
Yeah, but the only way that can happen, is if the generation of Pakistanis that are now start accepting that in their past or whatever it was, there was a massive cultural problem in their community where it was okay for family members, because if you read the things, the people that convicted, a lot of them were brothers, cousins, and stuff like that, and that they could do this openly, with friends and families, and that it was acceptable within their friends and family group. Because I'm telling you, you went into a Sikh family like myself or something like, and you even said to one family member, "Oh yeah, I know this girl. She's like, you get 12 years old, you'd get your head kicked in straight, right? You'd be reported to the police." So how is it possible that it happened so frequently in that community and it wasn't ever something that's a problem? I've not heard of one case where somebody was pulled up by a family member and reported to the police. I've not heard of it, right? And you're talking about thousands.
You know, Sammy Woodhouse, she's a grooming gang survivor. She did a really good interview that I'm going to be looking at tomorrow and breaking down. And she explains that she's even been, she has had Muslim women contact her to say that they're glad that she spoke out and everything, because although it's rare, there has been Muslim men that attacked Muslim girls.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, probably. And the thing is, the problem is, I also think is that there's a tip of the iceberg with the Sikh community in terms of girls, because the difference is that whereas a white girl would be able to go to the police and try to report it, the way the community works is that we feel so embarrassed that we would rather cover it up, right? And I'm just saying this is a very bad backwards mentality of Asian community. They will try to cover it up because, or they will take the law into their own hands, like the Sikhs did in the 80s and 90s. And a lot of people went to prison and broke up families and stuff like that because of that. Obviously, if you go in prison, you can't. And so I think the only way it can be forward, because this is going to keep on re-emerging every couple of years. And Veli says that Veli, jump on Raja, trying to make it illegal to cover up abuse. I see to look at the case number.
Banksy,
put him
I'm
on.
here, but nobody can see us because, Manny, you've got Jupiter soloed.
Right. Oh, here he is. Big up, Banksy.
Big up, everyone. Good to see everyone here. As usual,
Once in a while, I look at Speaker's Corner video, and you're just standing there in the background. What is going on, man?
I'm just standing there in the background.
Yeah, you're just there.
But why aren't you watching my stream? If you watch my stream, I'm
no,
not standing in the
what it is,
background.
I watch it afterwards, innit? I watch it like a couple of days later. I just check what's going on, and you're not your normal kind of fiery self anymore, man. What's happened?
I don't understand. I mean, what do you want me to do? Just attack them? Just dive in?
Yeah, you used to. Remember that time when? Because the time that I got, because I used to really, he used to really annoy me, Banksy, because he used to laugh a lot, right? And I don't like people laughing too much, right? Yeah, no, I'm used to it now. It's like a door creaking, right? And I remember this guy laughed so much, and I was like, oh. And I remember you had that issue with Raspik, didn't you? Remember Raspik with them lot, right? And they were going to threaten you. And then the day I had respect for him because they come up to him and try to intimidate him. I was more intimidated than Banksy for some reason. I wasn't even involved. they surrounded him. And I remember thinking, because I remember thinking, Banksy's going to crumble, innit? He's going to crumble. This is like the end of this guy. Okay, see you later, dude. But you stood these
done
ground,
out here. Wallahi, you're finished. Wallahi, you're finished.
But then you stood your ground. I was like, I like this dude. Yeah, because then I realized this guy ain't all talk, innit? Because you can only really tell once that person's been put into the heat of the situation, and they gave you a lot of pressure that day. So yeah. So then afterwards, I changed my mind. I only disliked his laugh a little bit afterwards.
Oh, I see.
What's your views then, Banksy, on the whole situation that we've been?
Well, on this very, very old issue that you literally did millions of live streams and went on to Speaker's Corner, and yet this thing is still happening. I mean, how is it that this? I mean, this. You see, the problem is, you see, people like Veli, who are cuckold leftists, are constantly jumping on the
He
bandwagon
needs to
of.
come up instead
Oh
of
my
crying.
God, Veli has fallen off the leftist wokest bridge so hard, It's unbelievable. He's caping for the Labour government now. That's how pathetic this man has fallen. He's caping for Starmer, like as if this Starmer gives a crap about Veli and his ilk. But the problem is he's fallen off the leftist like bandwagon. I think it's to do with the Palestine thing. It's just like what's happened. I've noticed with this Palestine issue is that two wide sort of divides have occurred. The Jews who used to be leftists are now not leftists anymore because they realized that all the people they thought they could trust on the left are now their mortal enemies. They literally would advocate for the death of their people and the eradication of their country. So they can't be on that side anymore. But yet people like Veli, who were more centrist, have fallen or have become extreme leftists now. They are the Antifas. They've become in that because they're convinced that Israel...
Shots fired, man. Shots fired.
No, it's because they're convinced that Israel is a genocidal nation and anyone that supports them can't possibly. So they've gone the other way. They've gone the other extreme. But the problem is, he hasn't stopped at that point. He hasn't stopped at just Israel-Palestine. Everything left is now just wonderful. He literally capes for woke shit. I'm sure he if his son comes back from school one day...
Even transgenders in men's bathrooms.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm sure one day if his son comes back and says, we've got tampons in boys...
he literally goes to Ghost panel with Iduki and sits there talking with them.
He's just gone, he's just gone off the deep end. Unfortunately,
I can't believe that about Veli. Come on, mate. Come on.
Absolutely.
No way, not
absolutely.
Veli.
You should listen to his shows. I can't even listen to the shows anymore. I barely even attend the panels because there's just better panels anyway out there.
Yeah, but I'm against the what's happening in Gaza. I think it's a genocide. I think it's totally unacceptable. But I still support Israel. Now I can still all right. So I still support the state of Israel being able to exist in a two-state solution, right? And I believe that they should be able to defend themselves if they're being attacked, which they were. Now, there's a difference between, in my opinion, defending yourself and going completely berserko in it, and kind of just like you're almost punishing everyone for the actions of those evil people that are Hamas. Because I do believe Hamas is evil, right? So yeah, I can have that opinion, but I haven't fallen onto the left brain rot.
This is what I mean. It's like it seems that he's taken it a lot more on board. As I said, he's caping for this government. He's caping for this Labour government.
They're conservative. They're not Labour.
Well, this is the thing. It's like what? Who's bought this guy out? You start to think maybe there's money in this crowd.
I wouldn't say that.
No.
I would say that the left and the right that we've got represented in the establishment at the moment are all the same people. They're a uni party. I wouldn't say they're one or the other.
Yeah, I do want to defend Veli that people are paying. There's not a single person on his panel or his chat that probably earns over the like £5 a week. So,
well, yeah, but you would think, the way he's caping so hard. I'm just saying the way he's caping so hard and using so much cope to try to excuse this Labour government and Starmer, you'd think he's getting paid. That would be the only explanation, because he's certainly not benefiting anything from it. Is his sons or is his schools any better? Is the NHS any better? Is his life become easier? No, his taxes are going to go up. He's as an individual, sort of, I don't know if he's a sole trader or something. He's going to get screwed as a small business guy in this government. This government's going to come for him.
Maybe he's a champagne socialist.
I hope so. He must. I hope he's some sort of millionaire that he's getting away with it, because that would at least explain it. That would be some reason for it.
There's a famous YouTube, I think it's a TikToker called Hassan something, and he's a full-on communist, right? But he drives around in a Ferrari. He owns a massive house, and he's basically earning lots of money. But he wants everyone to be equal. He would never. Some people would never ever live in the state, like the government that they kind of are pressing for. So, example, communists, they would never survive. They'll be the first ones to be their heads chopped off. And then the same people with Sharia, like that, they'll be the first people to have their head chopped off.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Because
The funny thing
cannot deal with it.
The very Hamas types that he capes for and he marches for are the very people who would put his neck under the sword because he's an atheist.
We're kind of moving away from the main topic, but listen, let me just ask you something. Then. You said Hamas because that's a pretty big allegation, right? Because I do differentiate between a Palestinian and Hamas, right? Because I personally believe Hamas is a bigger kind of like let's say have done more crimes against Palestinians than Israel has.
Okay, Raj, let me ask you a reasonable question. Who are Hamas? Where did they come from? Are they aliens? Did they come from Mars? Where did they emerge out of?
Yeah, but they also after 2005 when they won the election, they also started assassinating the PLO members and then got rid of democracy.
Yeah, the Fatah and their
yeah,
political enemies.
Yeah,
but who did Hamas come out of? Which people did Hamas emerge out of?
Yeah, obviously the Palestinians, but that doesn't mean
so suddenly Hamas are Palestinians. Incredible.
Didn't say that. I didn't say they were not Palestinians.
No, well, this is the cope. You see, this is the problem you guys have with the cope of trying to pretend that there's these two different groups. There's the Palestinians and then there's Hamas. There is Hamas that came out of Palestinians. That's what it is. And if you think that those so-called civilians would not pick up arms, the problem is Hamas are the ones who can kill the Jews. The Palestinians, quote unquote, simply are not able to kill the Jews. If they could, they absolutely would. That's the difference between the Palestinian people and the Hamas people. Just ability to be able to kill or not kill the Jews. The Palestinian people have no love for the Israelis, and they were the ones who were literally cheering in the streets on October 7th. October 7th. They were literally, there's videos of them screaming Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar when you see the rockets from Hamas's rockets flying over towards Israel and the paragliders and all of that. Those so-called Palestinian civilians are as much culpable as any Hamas fighter. That's why they found hostages in the house of an Al Jazeera Palestinian reporter. That's where they found the hostages. That's why they find all of these civilians involved. I'm sorry. Get back to the grooming gangs.
So let's just go. Let me just end this. I do believe, that the Palestinian peoples are not innocent as well. The same way the Israeli people are not innocent in terms of electing Benjamin Netanyahu into government. It doesn't mean that I agree with what happened on October the 7th. I don't agree with what's happened after October the 7th, up to now in it. Like, obviously, I think Israel has a right to defend itself and to seek justice, but I just think it's a total shit show on all sides, in it, personally. There's no real good or bad guys.
I don't get idiots like Ghost who say that we don't really care about children in this country because we won't take a side against the Jews and stick up for Palestinians. Look, I feel sorry for Jewish children. I feel sorry for Palestinian children caught up in the conflict. I feel sorry for Ukrainian children and Muslim children, but I'm not going to sit here and take a side because, one, I don't understand the intricacies. Two, at the end of the day, we've got bigger priorities, and that's our own country. And if we can't clean up what's going on in our own backyard, we've got no right intervening in other people's wars and telling them how to solve the problems. If we can't solve girls getting raped nationally up and down the country, sorry, I don't think we can.
Can I play a video so we can go back onto the thingy? Let me just play this video. Can you play videos from Twitter, Manny? I don't know if you can.
Yeah, you can play them. It's just, you got to realize different laws apply now between Twitter and YouTube. So different rules and different.
Okay, it's up to Manny, innit?
But yeah, I mean, if it's kosher, if it's reasonable, then it should be.
Yeah,
I can't at the moment. If you guys want to go ahead and play it, or you are doing gun.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. So here's obviously Elon Musk reposted it, innit? So it's just this lady. She seems quite reasonable, but this is what she says.
Rape is committed. I know it's probably an unpopular view, but I completely agree that it is, in some areas, largely rape is committed by Muslims. Because I grew up in Bradford, all right, and in that kind of environment, it is mainly Asian men, not because it's something about their culture, but because they're not getting caught. Like, I've had friends who've been raped and the police have told them that because it's an Asian man that's done it, probably not going to catch them. But it happens all the time.
What has anything to do with not catching them?
I don't know. Because they're not engaging.
Okay, no,
the police are too scared of being called racist to do anything. Like, there's just such a divide between
So the
British
police are scared of
population.
being called racist, is your
Yes.
point? Do you lend any credence to that idea, maybe?
I don't know what planet these police are living on. If are they actually saying to people, yeah, you know, I'm just going to put the phone down now because it's an Asian person, so
That's
don't
what they did.
report it.
That's what they did.
I don't think that they knew that.
That's literally what they did.
I think there needs to be an adult debate about these issues. Just going back to the original question and to some of the feedback as well. You know, there is a wider debate, and I mean this really seriously. I think in Britain, as a culture, we are scared of female sexuality. We really are, and so there's a massive debate to have around.
So this is, you know, this guy says this, right? And this is actually on steroids when it comes to the Muslim community, on most of them. Now, I've realized different Muslim communities have less kind of prudishness depending on where they're from. So I think people like from, you know, your best mate, Zubaydah, people that are from those kind of North Africans are a bit more moderate, to be honest. I've seen, you know, the women be able to do certain things. I'm like, okay, I wouldn't see a Pakistani doing that. But like I said earlier, I do believe that when you restrict somebody's sexual urges to the point that, like, if a man goes to prison, that they'll start bumming other men. Yeah, sorry about the language. And they say they're straight. I believe that when you have a culture that is so strict that you can't look at the woman, you have to turn your eyes down, you can't shake their hand, you can't be in the same room, they can't be in the same kind of like religious places. I do believe once they then see a different community which is behaving differently, where the women have more freedom, that they start to see those women as loose. Yeah, and I've heard it towards Sikh girls as well. Oh, your women are loose, so you let them go out and drink, and that's why.
Yeah, but then what's the answer? We shouldn't let them in at all if they can't control themselves.
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
the thing is, Manny's
really? They're calling
Cape for the
side. So he's here. So let me, because obviously I'm the man of neutrality. And I'm going to try and begin. I'm going to try and get to the kind of like, you know, the ins and outs of how really become a champagne socialist, according to these guys, that you're full on the left, become a communist almost, that you're a Keir Starmer, what's it called? What they kind of like in the sports games and stuff.
What's better than Rishi Sunak? Oh yeah,
all right,
he's all right.
So what's your argument? Because you heard some of the stuff they said. I mean, what's your kind of like defense of your character?
Oh, they just cried, man. No, they do.
I'm not
crying in the.
You're not
crying in the sidelines.
So is it true that you're now a full supporter of Keir Starmer?
No, I didn't even tell people to vote for Keir Starmer, but Keir Starmer's better than Rishi Sunak. Like, Labour's better than Conservatives.
I have to disagree. I have to disagree with you on that, if I'm being honest with you. The reason being is I was a Labour Party member, and I used to canvass for them, like literally knocking on doors. On top of that, I used to also go to like political events. I met Tony Blair, and I don't think Labour is Labour anymore, if I'm being honest with you. I think they've gone even further than Tony Blair. Yeah, in my opinion, I think
14 years of austerity.
Yeah, but I personally believe
I ain't looking for another 14 years of that, guys.
No, I'm not saying that I don't like the Conservative Party either.
We're going to have worse than that.
I think they're both. I think they're both as bad as each other. That's why I don't vote anymore, because I don't think there's any difference between them. They're all the same.
Yep.
And you know what? As well, yeah. You know, Conservatives, yeah, they was in power when the Ixon report was completed, and there was 20 recommendations to be implemented to help stopping grooming gangs, and they never implemented not one of them, innit? Like, so.
Yeah, they're hypocrites. Obviously, it's embarrassing that they're now trying to push for a inquiry when they were in power for 10 years. Like, why did they not do it then?
By the way, let me inform some of the naive people about this Hickson inquiry. The fact is that this thing was so wide-ranging, and it had nothing to do with specific grooming gangs. It was child abuse cases. It was entirely nationwide. It didn't focus on any of the grooming gangs in particular. It mentioned Rotherham once. It mentioned grooming gangs twice in that entire report. So it was not a grooming gang report. It was child abuse report on child abuse overall in the country, because they're still shit scared of mentioning Muslim grooming gangs. They're still scared so much that they still didn't even mention it on that report. That's why a new inquiry is required to focus on grooming gangs, not on child abuse overall in the country. Grooming gangs within Britain. What are their motivations? Why are they doing what they're doing? And why is and not only that the perpetrators of the rapes that should be going to prison, but those who in any way assisted them, the police, the counselors, the social services, all of those people. They're not. I haven't seen one single social services person or a police officer go to prison or be held up for to be accountable for most of their misdeeds.
You ain't even read the report we're talking about. You ain't even read the report. They done a 2-year look into grooming gangs specifically.
How is it that if they did 2 years of looking into grooming gangs, they only mentioned Rotherham once? What happened to Oldham? How come they haven't done? How is it that Oldham Council is asking for a report to be done on their grooming gangs, and that's been refused?
Well, the one good thing that the J report does actually cover, Banksy, and does actually state, is that they did find that there was a cover up. They did believe that there was can't remember the words that they used, but basically there was an air of looking the other way, that there were people that didn't progress things forward when they should have done, and it was because that they feared of being called racist. So, and they also said it was majority Pakistani, which is why they want their ethnicities recorded.
Because
So all the stuff that people are arguing against, the J report actually found in favour of our opinions and not the opposite.
So, Veli, I think the thing is here, I think the biggest issue that I think people have, even the Sikh community, is not necessarily that it's only Pakistanis that are doing it. Obviously, other groups are. It's that they systematically got away with it because the police either turned a blind eye, the council, for whatever the reasons were, they turned a blind eye. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. Do you think if there was a black guy, right, let's say 3 black guys in the house with a 12-year-old white girl, what do you think the police would do?
They would have arrested them.
What they would do? Be honest, because this has happened where fathers have gone to houses and told them my daughter's in there, she's a little kid, and they said, "Look, we can't do nothing." What do you think would happen if it was 3 black guys? No, I need you to answer, please, buddy. I beg you.
Yeah, let me answer it. Yeah, unlike the other people on the panel here, I've actually looked into the report as well, yeah, and even listened to other bits and takes from the report and other people that created the reports to see what their actual real conclusion was, not just made up my own conclusion and come to that. And I did hear about the case of the young lady or the young girl, should I say, getting arrested for being drunk and on drugs while she was in a room full of men or whatever. And obviously that dude should have been arrested, isn't it? So,
yeah, but I'm asking, what do you think would have happened if they were black? If the girl was white and there was 3 black guys in a room with a 12-year-old, the girl was drunk and they're on drugs and stuff, what would have happened to the black guys?
They would have got nicked, isn't it?
All right, so
about the same. But listen, yeah, if saying the police are scared, yeah, but wait, hold on a sec, yeah. So if the police would have nicked black people, why would they be scared to nick Pakistanis?
Because the Pakistani community in those areas had a lot more power than, say, a black person would in that area. So what they were there was lots of people on the police force, the counsellors and stuff like that, right? So what was happening is that girls are being abducted, and I think they also had more of a fear of like. So if it was a white girl, now I think they were scared of, from what I understanding is that, of being called racist because the girl was a white girl with a brown man. Right, and so they would have been like, okay, we might don't want to go down this road because there will be racist. Like, so I think when it comes to black people, they didn't care, in my opinion.
There's a Manchester report into Manchester's Greater Manchester Police. It's already classed them as institutionally racist. So I thought they would be scared.
It's a little bit crackling, Billy. Your thing is a bit cracking.
What I did find interesting.
Yeah, you should have got a right wing mic.
Was that little video that you played, because that girl could actually be right. She could actually be saying that that it was self-perpetuating in a way, because the men were getting off of it because they didn't want to be seen as racist. It increased and it increased, and that it might prove that actually, it isn't anything to do with their cultural values, although I would disagree with that. But I mean, that is a good argument.
A little bit. Yeah. And the thing is that, over whatever time there is, I think the only way this situation is going to actually be kind of not resolved or tackled is if the Pakistani community just comes and says, look, we have a problem, or we had a problem, and we're going to try and find out why, and try and not let the next generation think the same way that those people thought. Because they did have a backward mentality of non-Muslim women. As I said, women that were not chaste, in their opinion.
Yeah, but they're not doing that, Raj.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Yeah, like these guys want them to carry out I don't have a long investigation.
No, we don't want to
hammer down on them when they want to carry out another whole long investigation.
No, we don't want a long investigation.
Shut up, man, and let me finish speaking. Like, can you stop doing that? Because I didn't.
Yeah, but when you're speaking on our behalf, you need to be correct.
Let me finish speaking, and then correct whatever you think's wrong after, innit? Like, it's annoying, isn't it? So, like, these guys want a long investigation and not even be hammering down on them to implement any of the recommendations that could get any convictions actual sooner, rather than a long flipping investigation. You don't even know who's going to be in power in the next 5 years.
Why not do both?
Yeah, so Raj, that's disingenuous. He's had 2 streams now where he's been told we don't want a long investigation. What we want is an investigation to cover the stuff that weren't in the J report, and that we don't believe it went far enough to uncover the rottenness within the establishments and the authorities, as well as the reasons why, and to look at ways of preventing it from that angle. I don't know why you're saying we want a long one. We don't. And we've also said that we're quite happy to implement the J report. We don't want to stop any of them implementations. So I don't know why he keeps arguing.
Well, you want to give them a timeline on how long the investigation is going to be. The investigation takes as long as it takes. If you want them to do an actual full investigation into every single area of grooming into the UK.
We don't need them to do that. We don't need them to do that. We can take the findings from the J report. We can find. So, for example, when they say that the ethnicities weren't recorded and that they want to record the ethnicities, right? Well, if that was 2 years ago, we've got 2 years of ethnicities, even though we know what the majority are. Yeah, we can see we can see with our eyes every time they get a grooming gang into court that they're not fucking English background, they're not a white indigenous background. And when we look into the indigenous backgrounds of these brown people, we can see that they're predominantly Pakistani.
Yeah,
I don't know why people keep arguing it.
Yeah, the majority in the papers might be Pakistani.
So we need to find out what it is within the Pakistani community, that they've got a lot of people within their community that are committing these crimes. That doesn't mean all Pakistanis are bad people. I'm sure there's Pakistani Christians. I'm sure there's Pakistani atheists. I'm sure there's Pakistani Muslims that all want to protect their children as well.
The thing is, look, I'm going to say it straight because I've heard it a million times, even now. But let me just say something. I've heard this a million times in my face, online. Other people have heard it. Pakistani guys will say, "You're to Sikh guys, yeah." They will go because Sikhs are more relaxed with their women, right? They'll let them go out, they'll let them dress a bit differently. They're not as strict. They have said to me, "Your girls are loose. They're slags because they go out, blah blah blah. They drink and that, and whatever happens, happens in it." Now, if they're thinking that about Sikh girls that are still quite modest, what do you think they're thinking about Western women?
Raj, Khan the Turk literally said it on Veli's own panel that these women are slags, that these women, they kind of had it coming. If he says, if I see a 12-year-old girl at 3 a.m. in the streets,
he said it
I won't do anything. Yeah, remember that shit? And that's a Cypriot Turk who was raised in Britain and is, you know, has as far as we know, as in what's it called? Oh man,
he's got mixed race kids as well because he's been
but what's the term?
Yo, can I reply now?
Reese, they've been mixed in with the population.
Right,
Oh,
call me
damn
when
it,
I
I
can
forgot
chat,
the
man.
name.
Hey, I think
Not indoctrinated. What's the word when they say
assimilated
into the culture and all of that? So this Cypriot Turk who should know better still has those kind of opinions. Are you honestly telling me some freshie who's just come off the boat, off the plane from Pakistan, Afghanistan, which we've had a lot of Afghanis recently, and I think the future of these gangs are not going to be a Pakistani majority. I think they're going to start to flip to Afghanis in the future. But that's because I don't think a lot of that the new stuff is not the new Afghan migrants haven't quite found.
Yeah, but this is
yet.
Sorry, so this is another thing where when sexuality is repressed so much that you turn gay or you turn perverted. Remember the Bachabazi boys? This is open in Afghanistan. Do you know how I know it's true? Because even Sikhs that are from Afghanistan, they're called Pappe, they dance like women. You know, at the weddings, I've seen weddings, right? They're dancing like women, twirling and all this, and it's a kind of form of like feminine sort of dancing because there's no women allowed in the area, right? So they start to deviate, and they will say, "I'm not gay, but I just give it in it. I don't take it, so I'm not gay." No, but that's true though, yeah. So there is when you have a very repressive culture, and I'm not just saying it's Pakistanis that are Asian culture is quite repressive, but different Asian groups have
Islamic culture, dude.
To have less oppression in terms of repressiveness, right? And I would say Sikhs and Hindus are less, but they still have a kind of like honor culture, whereas Pakistanis are on the next level when it comes to mixing.
Look, the reality is that if these Afghans, if these Pakistanis were back in their own countries, they'd have plenty of goats and donkeys to bang. Now they don't have that anymore in city life. You can't really stick it in a tailpipe of a car that easily. So it is what it is. They'll start grooming little children because these people are fucking backwards. Nobody wants to say it. Nobody wants to admit it. They are backwards individuals who are coming here in their masses and are not going to assimilate to this culture because it took decades for the white man and the European man to recognize that they shouldn't just randomly rape people.
Right, dry your tears, man. Stop crying, man.
Yeah,
That's the problem.
Let Billy have his say that.
All right. Most grooming gang offences carried out by white men, police chief says, and that was February 10th, 2025. So
this is why we say that you're a bit backward. We've covered this hundreds of times.
So well, you don't keep talking about are these people backwards that are carrying out the all these people are backwards, yeah. The majority white people and the Pakistanis that are carrying out these groomings, yeah.
So we're not arguing that child sexual exploitation is not carried out majority by white people.
Grooming gangs.
Right, well that's not true.
It is. It says it there.
I don't care what they say. It's not true.
I personally believe.
Well, you don't care what they say, but it says it there.
I personally believe, because I know that there's maybe hundreds of thousands of Sikh girls that were groomed and they never went to the police, right, or didn't get no justice. I still believe that there's thousands of guys who committed crimes against children and they're walking free. And I think the kind of arrest rates that you see are just the tip of the iceberg. I would think it's like, imagine a community, because you need to understand something, Billy. It wasn't just like random guys, normal pedophiles. They will have normally people that are kind of like they don't know each other. They're on the internet and stuff, and they do certain things right to children, which is evil. These guys are going with their brothers, cousins, uncles, people, friends, and all that kind of stuff, doing the most crazy stuff with children, right?
Yeah, and torturing.
For them to be able to do this, though, really, there has to be some sort of kind of code of conduct within their own community where they say, okay, this is permissible.
Raj, the point is, that the ICSA report and then any other report after that is really trying to implement the ways on how to stop anything like this happening, right? So, like what happened, and I tried to speak to these lots before about this, right? There's a lot of similarities with the way that people are being groomed in other situations, like in care homes, like the kids that are getting taken up country to sell drugs. and carry out violence
Yeah,
for
we agree with
other
that.
gang members. And let me speak here, Carl. Don't cut you with the speaking. Yeah, all that sort of stuff there, innit? Yeah, but it's like it sounds like you only want an investigation into Pakistani grooming gangs, not just into grooming gangs or the roots how people get groomed or whatever.
Because
That's what
they've
actually,
already looked at
bro.
grooming
Let
gangs.
me
They've
finish.
just
Let me
told us that.
finish. Stop speaking, man. It's actually annoying, innit, when you can't
Well, I
control
think you're finished, and then
control
you
yourself,
take a
innit?
break and start again.
Let
Control
him
yourself,
just
man,
let
and
him
then
just
finish,
finish.
man. So, like I say, yeah, so we actually really want things to be implemented that look at ways to stop any type of grooming and all of it together. So, implementing these shits ASAP and getting these people onto that, all that sort of stuff there is going to be beneficial. And even the people that carried out the grooming gangs report, as her name is Professor Alexis J, and I think his name's Nafso. Is it Nafaz Afsal or something like that? Yeah, they said that if you carry out an investigation into just Pakistani grooming gangs, then you're only carrying out an investigation into 3% of the grooming gangs. Then you're going to be letting a lot of other groomers get away. So, do you want an inquiry into just grooming in general, or just into Pakistani?
No, but
grooming?
this is where I think where my opinion is I don't think it's 3%. I think it's going to be much higher. And what's going to happen is once they start investigating, they're going to open a can of worms, and there's going to be lots of people, including people in high positions and stuff like that, allowed to get away with it. Maybe even people, counselors, stuff like that, maybe even being involved. I think the thing is about the white or say other groups of pedophiles or groomers. Yeah, no one's saying that they shouldn't be brought to justice, maybe even in an investigation. But I don't think there's been a cover up of these guys. There has been a cover up for a long time. The reason why it's got so out of control is because people in high places allowed it to happen, and those people need to be brought to justice, isn't it? Just as much as the people that are going to commit the crimes. Also, we need to understand very clearly that a culture which is normalizes picking up 12-year-old girls, going with your friends or cousins or relatives and raping them, because if you read some of the stuff, it's so unbelievable what people are doing with friends and families, right? This kind of culture needs to be looked into and understood why they think like this. Yeah, otherwise it's going to just keep on carrying on. I've never met a white person that or heard of cases where there's a whole family of white people that are like brothers and stuff like that going around raping and grooming kids. It's normally people who are obviously perverts, but they're doing it with anonymous people from different parts of the UK or whatever, and then they have their own.
No, that's not true.
I'm not saying all the time, but you probably find some, but it's not going to be the majority.
The fact is that what? Hold on, Veli. You had your say, dude. You had your say. You had your say. Now it's my turn and other people's
and I want to
turn.
go after
Stop. The fact is that
come on, children, behave.
No, the fact is he had his
No,
say.
no,
I was
because
silent the whole time.
Yeah, I know.
And he
Have your
complained
bit,
about
and then
why you talking over me.
Wow.
So now you see
come on, Veli,
he can't take it.
Yeah,
That's
come
why
on,
he's
come
this whole thing's a massive cope
Come on,
for someone like
Banksy,
Veli.
come on.
The fact is that number of 80% of grooming gangs still being Pakistani has not changed, has not actually been challenged. When it comes to this specific type of child abuse, it is still vastly majority men of Pakistani origin, and they are well overrepresented for their numbers in this particular type of crime. In given any population, there will always be monsters and heinous criminals that will do crimes like this in any given population. It's not like somehow the white people are excluded from this. But this particular
no, but in the UK, the white British people are overrepresented.
I haven't finished.
They're overrepresented.
Talking.
Though.
I'm still talking. The fact is that the white people. The other thing that this report. This is why it's such a wide report. Is that when it comes to child abuse reports from white people, it's quite often to do with material such as videos and photographs and stuff like that. It isn't actual violent crimes. So that's why the white population is even more overrepresented in this number than it actually, when you want to focus purely on grooming gangs who are violently raping and torturing young girls and to some
Yeah, so
in
you
some
want
cases
to review
there was
grooming gangs
actually
then, in
there was
general, right?
yes no what I want is a case. I want an investigation on Pakistani grooming gangs, because the British population will have its own monsters. We don't need to import monsters from other
But
places.
what about the
These
other
people are
97%
imported
of grooming
monsters
gangs?
from. Look, I'm still talking and I still haven't finished.
3%.
So Veli, I will interrupt you now every time you talk. Every time you talk, I will interrupt you.
We want to have a productive conversation. So let him
Come on, man. Behave yourself.
let him
The fact is that yes, I want a specific report on the Pakistani Muslim grooming gangs. Yes, I don't give a shit if every white man on the planet in Britain is some heinous pedo. I don't want people who've been imported, who don't actually belong here, are now committing these crimes. So yes, if it means actually sieving them out and shipping them out of this country or sticking them in some hole prison somewhere, then yes, they are not native to this land anyway.
I agree.
They don't need to be fucking here in the first place. If you have your own monsters as it is in your own country, you don't need to import more. Go ahead.
So I just want to add my response as well to the question that Veli's asking. Look, you say that there's a J report that's covered all this and this other report that went on for years and years and years. And we say, yeah, okay, there's 20 implementations. Go ahead, implement them. They've covered grooming gangs. We still want a specific report to do with the sexual grooming gangs of our girls up and down the country, because, they haven't found out why it's happening, and they haven't sorted out all the people in the positions of trust and authority and in our establishments who look the other way, and they haven't brought them to justice. And the girls that have suffered need justice. Not only that, we need to be aware of who they are, because we want them out of our parliament. We want them out of all of our positions of authority. We do not want them around children, and we want them exposed completely. And that needs to be done. And if people think that because we say, right, we want to look at the fact that it appears at the moment, it could change, that it's majority Pakistanis, and therefore we need to look into what factors from the Pakistani heritage is feeding into this. We also want to expose those that are in the establishment, and they're not necessarily going to be Pakistani. They could be white, they could be black, they could be whoever they are in positions of trust. We want them all done. This is not about race. The only racial factor that we have to take into account is, why are the perpetrators Pakistani so high, and why are they always choosing white girls? Is there an anti-white rhetoric let loose in our country that means that these people are against us? That is what we're saying.
It's only because you're biased and you only look into just that angle there of a Pakistani person molesting a white lady or a white child or whatever. But there's been Pakistani children that's been molested, Sikh children, probably even black, white, mixed race, and other flipping races that's been groomed or whatever by either Pakistani or other grooming gangs. So if you really did care about this,
the predominant choice has been like first Sikhs and then
if you really did care about children or whatever, then you'd really be campaigning for fucking obviously implementation, and then they're looking to actual just grooming gangs in general. So no flipping nonce gets away. Don't matter whether they're from Yard or abroad. Yeah, or ban all nonsense. I'm not on Banks' thing. He's like, yeah, we're happy with English nonsense. I ain't. Ban them. Ban all of them. All the fucking nonsense.
That's not what we're
Jamaican
saying.
nonsense. Ban Jamaican nonsense. Pakistani nonsense. Ban Pakistani nonsense. Let me finish speaking.
You see how he disingenuously actually makes out as if I excuse the other nonsense. No,
you said you're okay with the English nonsense.
I didn't say we're okay with it. I said that we don't need to. We already have our own monsters. We don't need to import more monsters.
We know that they're getting taken into prison. They might not be getting
these foreign monsters are coming into this country and are acting these heinous crimes. We already have plenty of monsters in this country that we need to deal with. We have plenty of Jimmy Saviles and the Rolf Harrises running around. We don't need to import the Pakistani versions of it too. We can at least keep them out.
Can I just share a screen for a second? Can I just share the screen?
And yeah, of course, Raj. And may I
Manny.
just add that we actually want all of the paedophiles, all of them, Billy, no matter what colour they are, anybody that does an offence against children, when they go through our justice system, we want them to get tougher sentences. No more Hugh Edwards. No more people walking out of court when they've got photos and everything of children, or they've done disgusting things to children. We want all their sentences to be harsh. But if we are importing people from another country, like that couple over Christmas from Poland, by the way, that killed their baby but through sex, and there's been pictures found all over their computers, if they're dual nationals, send them back to their country. And that goes for Pakistanis, Albanians, Romanians, Czechs, and God knows what other European. So there you go.
Yeah, so this is going on to that. So the guy, one of the leader of the grooming gang in Rochdale, is now delivering. Here he is. And he wasn't even a UK citizen. So they tried to deport him, but he's not going. Right now, how is this possible?
Exactly.
This guy who was the leader of the gang, who wasn't a British citizen, is now working as a delivery driver. Now just imagine a victim orders something from whatever company it is, and this guy turns up, the person that raped her, as a kid. Can you not see how certain people like this need to be deported, innit? I mean, if you're not a British citizen...
Hey, bro, listen, stop trying to straw man my argument like I'm making defenses for anyone to be allowed to be...
I didn't say that.
You're doing nothing but cope for these people. You're doing nothing but cope.
That's not an argument at all. Yeah,
so what would you? So to give you a chance, what would you do with this guy who wasn't a British national? He was the ringleader. Would you agree that he?
No, whatever the law says to deal with him, then that's what it is, and they should dash the book at him, innit? Like if he can get deported for it, deport him. If not, then he just serves his sentence, innit?
Yeah, but the point is, look, obviously I'm not somebody that believes that all immigration is bad, right? And I'm not saying that Pakistanis are bad or whatever. But I'm saying if you know,
you know what it is, yeah. It's funny that all these guys are enraged right now today about wanting to have an inquiry or whatever. The day of the inquiry coming out, though, the actual inquiry that was looking into this sort of stuff there and this, that, and the other, none of these guys opened their mouth one time and even spoke about it. So this is false outrage. That's really what the whole joke thing is. It's like, you man are just rolling with this false outrage and getting directed by Elon Musk on what you should be angry about. Elon told you to be angry about grooming.
What do you mean? I've been talking
and
about.
now you're angry about grooming gangs.
And so was Raj.
Now you're angry about grooming gangs. No, you never spoke about the ICSA report coming out on the day it come out. Now you're talking about
grooming gangs from day dot.
You never spoke about the ICSA report on the day it come out, and you didn't know about any of the recommendations or whatever. You didn't even know what the report was called, who created it or whatever. You didn't even know that there was a report. So what are you talking about?
I know there's been several reports.
You know, flipping grooming gang expert or nothing like that, or someone that cares about that. You just follow directions.
I never said I'm a grooming gang expert, nor are you. Because if you did, you wouldn't be running around saying that grooming gangs are predominantly white.
Well, that's what the evidence says.
Yeah, and that just shows how ignorant you are.
But this is where I have to disagree with you. I do believe statistically, if you was to do the math, that they'll probably show that. But my point is this: I believe thousands, or maybe even more than that, of groomers are walking free and never been convicted, and including the guys that remember when that girl went to the police station. Who were the guys that picked her up when she left the police station? Because they never found them. There was, she said, 3 or 4 guys that raped her. Then she was dropped off, and another 2 guys come, and they did it again. 2 other guys. Then there was another guy when they dropped over. Another guy did it. None of those have been found. No one knows who they are. So it's the tip of the iceberg. Normally, when it comes to other groups of people that commit sexual crimes or whatever crimes, they're picked up and arrested pretty quickly, or they are normally kind of tried to charge them or arrest them. But with these guys, they're just walking around. They haven't even been apprehended. And this is my thing. I think once they really start digging deep, the percentages will change drastically, in my opinion.
Yeah, and you know what, Raj? I can't believe he's walking around still got 2 eyes. If that was a white man where I live, right, and he's been known to do all what this man did, he'd have been beaten up so many times, burnt out. He'd probably be dead to be fair.
Yeah, I think you should kind of like preface that with that. You
No, but it's true though. That's what happens. And you live on a council estate and you do all that shit. Yeah, that's what happens to you.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that the fact that he's doing a job where he's interacting with the public and he can easily bump into the person that he's abused is insane, in my opinion. Like, how you even have the nerve to do it? Like, he should be.
How is it that his community even allows him to still stay in that city, in that town? I mean, if his community is quote unquote so outraged, he should be ran out of that fucking city. He should be hiding out some other place in the world because he wouldn't even be able to raise his head in that community again. But no,
yeah,
he's going around Uber delivering.
Yeah, and this is the thing that I think is something that needs to be looked into, the cultural aspect of people. Normally, if someone's found to be a paedophile in any other community, they're normally ostracized, made to feel like they're the bottom of society, obviously, which they are. And even sometimes, I'm not going to say it's the right thing to do, but even physically attacked sometimes, right? That's why you have like these people when they're being put into areas and they find that they're pedophiles, they're getting moved around a lot. Whereas these guys are walking around freely. Like they've not done nothing already. They seem to be kind of like, totally accepted back within the community without any real issues. And that's a problem, in my opinion, because there is such a thing as ostracizing people and having some kind of culture where your culture demonizes certain things, right?
Raj, have you ever known, right, a paedophile in this country from the white community where the wife and all the family members have turned up to have a go at the victims' families ever at a court
This
case?
is no, or even stayed with the perpetrator. Normally,
Exactly,
they
but you get it in their community, don't you?
I guarantee you, this man goes to the mosque every Friday and he's welcomed in.
I mean, he's allowed. Look, even a criminal is allowed to go to a religious place of worship. That's not for us to kind of thingy, but it's the fact that he's so openly kind of like living a normal life, where it seems like he's got no real kind of. It doesn't seem like he's scared of anything, which is very, 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 very disturbing, in my opinion. Right? When you find out somebody's like done something like this and he's been convicted, it's not like it's an allegation, right? Obviously, everyone's not guilty until proven guilty, or innocent until proven guilty. But this guy was actually charged.
He's been proven guilty.
Yeah.
He's been in prison.
Hey, you saying that they should carry out vigilante justice in the Pakistani community against this man, yeah?
Whether it's physical or whatever, they should at least a minimum ostracize him. Don't you think? Like,
if they start carrying out vigilante justice, now people are going to say,
no,
how savage they are. They went and burnt down his house.
I didn't. No, you're going to the worst case. I said ostracize. If somebody in your community,
But how do you know he's not ostracized then? If he's just doing a delivery job?
No, because he's still with his family. He still seems to be living in the same house. Still seems to be living in the same area. Still is doing a job that he's going to be interacting with people.
Or whatever, like. How do you know anyone's to them? They might not.
And he's only the tip of the iceberg, dude. Like, there's stories of the girls who are being groomed and raped when they were younger, walking down the street, and the guys are still working in the certain places that they used to work before, like these kebab shops and stuff. They're not ostracized. They will come back. And I personally think, in my opinion, that a lot of the community members, especially the men, think that the girls are just a fair target, innit? And they've been mistreated. In my opinion. In other communities, they'll say no, they got what they got, and that those people, we're going to ostracize them. They're not going to be part of the communities. They try or will make them feel, little in that community, right? But these guys don't seem to be doing that. They seem to be allowing them to just roam free like it's totally normal.
I mean, there's a racial element to it, how they pick the children, the victims. Yeah. There's a torturous element to it. There's a sexual element to it. You've only got to compare Stephen Lawrence killers.
Vulnerability
If you look at Stephen
on the
Lawrence
people that they
killers,
can take advantage of.
If you look at Stephen Lawrence killers and where they are today, or the murderers, the 5 that got named, if you go and look at where they are today, they're ostracized from society. They're lonely old men, and none of them are in decent jobs with a load of money.
And the thing is, Billy, I don't think
you ain't seen them A-Court brothers again or
Billy,
them other ones. They're doing their thing, man. They're good.
Can I just say something, Billy? you have to understand, yeah, like this is also within the Asian community, right? And I'm going to condemn it on all sides, right? But I think it's worse in the Pakistani community that there is this kind of mindset that if a girl talks in a particular way, dresses in a particular way, or she behaves in a particular way, they're fair game in some ways, right? Like whatever happens, like if do you understand? Like, and so for these guys, it's on another level. Like they would actually do something, whereas with other communities, they say, "Oh, those people are immoral in it." And this kind of mindset, yeah, can the worst case scenario is that they would do what these guys did. They will start seeing these girls as worthless, they're sluts, they're this and that because they're not being looked after by their families, so they're fair game. And dude, I've heard it in my own ears thousands of times from Pakistani guys. Your girls are loose, your girls are slags, they go to clubs, they drink and all that. And I say, all right, so they're fair game to get raped and groomed. And they don't say it, but they're implying it.
Dude, Raj, we've got people. I mean, you've seen it, haven't you? The video of that Afghani guy who stole a mannequin from a store because he wanted to.
Yo, does my mic sound better now?
Yeah, now it does.
Yeah, it's just quieter now at least. Yeah, I mean, there's so many videos of these guys who literally haven't seen any kind of like a shade of a woman. They get turned on by mannequins. They start attacking mannequins.
And the thing is, that is from every community. But the difference is the Pakistani community and Muslim community have a very high kind of what you call kind of like, women being kind of covered up and very sort of like, okay, they can't do X, Y, Z. So when they come to a Western nation or any other nation where those women behave in a different way, they can't handle themselves, in my opinion. Their brain goes into overload, especially the younger guys in like their 20s, and they come from a country where everyone's covered up, and all of a sudden they come to London or Birmingham or whatever, and then they see other women that are not. I'm sorry, they're going to probably not be able to control themselves, and they're going to do things that what you see here, basically, because a lot of these guys were second or first generation or second generation when this stuff was happening. With their grooming cases, they were first or second generation, most of them. Like this guy is not a second generation. He's basically just somebody that come off immigrated, probably 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah, that's really kind of straw man in the argument though, right? Because I don't think that anyone, even the people in the Pakistani community, are trying to say that no one should be pointing fingers at any of these people or whatever. And I don't think that that's really been an argument that anyone's tried to make, innit? It's like that. But if you are going to be doing an investigation into grooming, making it just only about the Pakistani grooming gangs when there's other grooming gangs out there, there might all be Jamaican and African and other Albanian or whatever grooming gangs out there as well, means that you're only just looking into one small corner when there's a whole 97% you're going to miss out for just looking at the 3%.
Yeah, I don't think they should narrow. I don't think they should narrow it down to just Pakistani. I think there should be a grooming gang, kind of like investigation for. Look, I'm not saying that people are 18 plus are fair game. So don't get this wrong. I'm not saying that. I'm saying they should narrow the age range to say like 16 and under, right? And then, or maybe 18 and under, and then do the investigation there, right? Because as much as I may agree or disagree with prostitution or whatever, if somebody is an adult and they want to do something and they're not being coerced into do it, I can't stop them in it. That's their decision. But if somebody's a child, I'm sorry, just try and think back to when you were 15, 16 years old. You may have looked a bit more grown up, but you're still thinking like a kid. Like, some of the things I used to believe or used to do when I was like 15, 16, maybe I was just more immature. It's the same with these girls.
You wouldn't do it when you was 26, but some of the stuff you did when you was 26, you wouldn't do when you was 36, and then obviously onwards and onwards.
Things I would have done 10 years ago, I wouldn't do now where I'm later in my age, innit? Or I wouldn't want to do.
Link in the side chat.
Who is it? Okay, what is this? YouTube. Okay, what is this? Oh, is this that video? Is it that video? You want to play it? Oh,
yeah,
God.
It's innocent. Okay. It's all right. It's safe.
Oh, it's
for
actually
YouTube.
It's actually a little bit.
Is YouTube safe?
Okay, so is this a real video? Because it looks fake, man.
No, it's a real CCTV. But there is another one where the guy was literally trying to kiss the mannequin. This is just a guy who steals a
All right,
mannequin.
so,
and just runs
let's
away
have a
with it.
look. So I've not watched this video. So this is an Afghan guy, right? And it's the UK.
I don't know. I can't say. I know exactly where this is from. It's in Europe somewhere, but it's just ridiculous.
All right. Maybe they. Yeah. It's just. Yeah, I mean. Well, that if the government want to do a what's called kind of like a more broader kind of investigation, that's fine as well, isn't it?
The fact is, you see, this is why I said, this is Veli's cope. Is he comes from a leftist perspective, and from that leftist perspective, everything has to be equal and fair. We can't just narrow it down to the Pakistanis because it's unfair on the Pakistanis. We should look at everyone, every groomer, everything in the country. It's like, look. No, I don't give a shit. The fact is that we have monsters already fucking around doing fuckeries in this country. At least we can narrow it down to this bunch of fuckers and kick the fuckers out.
I think the way you
go back and check the monsters that we already have homegrown.
Yeah, exactly, man. Because he wants to protect UK nonsense while trying to search for Pakistani nonsense. It's funny,
from your leftist perspective. Yeah, I would take it if it means actually getting rid of one group of nonces, which is the Pakistani nonces. I will take that and then work on the other nonces. But the fact is that because you come from a leftist perspective, which everything has to be fair and equal, you have no concept of actually keeping your society safe.
Yeah,
you
but
would
listen,
rather keep your
Raj.
society in danger and have an equal, fair, quote-unquote system
you finish rambling.
than to actually have people who are damaging your nation kicked out, but be unfair about it. That's the problem, because you don't actually care about the people of the nation.
Bro,
you
shut
care
up,
about
man,
your
and let me reply, bro, man. I don't know why you're going on this long monologue.
Because I'm still talking and you keep interrupting. I didn't say I finished.
You made the same point like 20 times.
I didn't say I would.
You made one point.
Okay, I make the point 12 times if I have to. But when I'm talking, you shut up and wait. No, I don't want you. I'm not even asking you to reply.
So fuck you making no point to me then.
Because these points, I'm not making these points to you. I said to Raj. I was talking to Raj. I said, Raj, the reason Veli is coping so hard, was I talking to you when I said the reason Veli is coping? No, I was talking about you. I wasn't talking to you.
Yeah.
So I wasn't asking you any questions because all my questions are rhetorical. I know the answers. I'm not asking you any questions, and I'm not addressing you.
Everything you're saying is a lie.
I'm addressing it
because Raj, listen. Let me ask you. Wait, what, Raj? Listen. Let me ask you. Yeah, Raj. Every time I've given you a reason for why it's strange that these guys want an inquiry into only Pakistani grooming gangs. What's that reason been, Raj?
That you want fairness. That you want
No, it isn't nothing. I haven't said nothing about fairness once. I just said that the majority of grooming gangs in the UK are allegedly English people, innit? Like English men, innit? So have a wider investigation. If you are calling for an investigation into grooming gangs, you need to investigate all the grooming gangs.
Yeah,
are you just investigating this small portion of grooming gangs and not the majority?
That comes under fairness. Oh, but let me put this to the panel, right? Let's just use India, because I know people go, India's the rape capital, blah blah blah. Right, so let's just use India, right? Say if in India, a group of let's just say what group? Let's say Russians immigrate to India in a large amount into a particular area, and then what they do is when they've immigrated, Indian girls are then targeted, right, and groomed and raped, in large numbers, right, by these immigrant Russians. Now, would it be unfair or unreasonable of, say, the indigenous people of that land who have been there for a long time, that these new groups come in and they're targeting their particular women, right? Would you think it's unfair for them to say, okay, this is outrageous, isn't it? Like, you've come to our country and now you've basically shit on our doorstep, innit? I don't know if that's. I think it's not unreasonable for people to give. Okay, these people are newcomers, isn't it? And also that once they've come here, they've done stuff that is beyond the power, innit? It's like the worst crime you can get. Because I know people can say, "Oh, people are coming here, stab people." The worst crime you can get is, abusing children, in my opinion. So, what do you think, then, Philly or Banksy?
What do I think about what if a group of Russians moved to India and started grooming Indian girls or whatever, and the Indian government wanted to do an investigation into the Russians that moved over there or whatever.
So if they want to just target that one thing and say, okay, why are they targeting our girls even though they've got their own women?
Yeah, that's not the same as what's happening in what you're asking for in the UK, though, right? Because the majority of the UK. No, but the majority of the UK people that you're trying to look into are actually British citizens, isn't it? Like,
no, but you could
were born here or whatever.
But you could use the same thing with India. You could say the majority of the people that are committing crimes of like a sexual nature are Indians. Now, would it be unreasonable?
No, but the majority of the Pakistani people that have been convicted of these crimes, though, are British Pakistanis, though, right? They're not foreign-born Pakistanis, are they?
They're first generation. So you have to understand this was started to occur in the 70s. It's a historic grooming situation.
No, I was talking about the ones that you've been convicted of in the last 5-10 years or whatever.
Those people were convicted for crimes they did in the 80s and the 90s. They weren't convicted for crimes they're doing now. So when they got convicted in 2010...
No, the people that have been convicted are convicted of crimes that's convicted of now, though, aren't they?
No. So, example would be some of that ringleader of the Rockstar.
So you would want the Indian government to have an investigation, like to spend the taxpayers' money into just a Russian investigation and just not into grooming gangs in general, just being able to stop Indians.
I would say both could be done at the same time. Right, you could do both.
Yeah, so what's wrong with that then? Like, if you say, wait, hold on a sec, though. What do you mean exactly? What are you talking about? You're asking.
We had an inquiry into
Be
child
quiet,
abuse
man. I was
cases
speaking.
overall in the
You
country.
was just looking for an inquiry into
and you
Pakistani grooming gangs. What are you talking about?
You
It
actually
don't even make sense.
interjected
How
when
can
I
you
was
say
talking.
exactly? But that's not exactly then, is it? Because he didn't say that. He said an inquiry into all groomers. Like I just said,
no. He said,
all groomers.
would it be unreasonable to have an inquiry to just Russian gangs grooming Indian children if they were in India, even though there is the majority of grooming gangs are Indians.
If they've moved to India just to groom Russians or whatever, they moved to Russian
who
India
were born in India, who
just
are
to groom
Indian
Indians
citizens,
or whatever.
but are
yes, of
Russian
course you can
men
have
who
an
are
investigation
only
into that, but that's not what's happening in the UK, though, is it? A Pakistani man moving to the UK just to groom British children, though. Like, come on, you're going far with the conspiracy.
I even said you could even set the same scenario. You could say Russian men who were born in India but were only targeting
if that was what's happening, then that would be part of the report, right?
I need to leave at
if that's the thing that was happening, that would be a focus part of the report, though, right? When they done their report, that would be a finding that they come up with. Wait, but hold on, Raj. Listen, if that was true, though, and one of the things that was actually happening, that would be a finding in one of the reports, even in the independent side reports that people have carried out into just grooming gangs, just Rotherham, just so and so or whatever. That would have been a finding into one of the reports, though, right?
Can I just clarify the hypothetical, because it's my hypothetical? I'm saying that. So let me give you the hypothetical. India, right, has a rape problem right there. We can agree with that. There's situation they're doing investigation. They're trying to figure out what the issue is, right? Say if in the 70s, 80s, a large amount, maybe let's just say 1 million Russians immigrated to India in particular areas that were ghettoized. Then when they come there in a few years, they start to have a situation where lots of Indian girls are being raped and groomed by these Russian guys, right? Yeah. And they're leaving their own women alone. But the Russian guys are grooming and raping these girls. Would it be unreasonable for India or the people of India to start asking why these guys that just immigrated here, or second generation or whatever, why are they doing this to our girls in particular, the indigenous girls of the land? And this is what I'm trying to say, is that the most of the cases that they're talking about, the historical cases, meaning that they happened in the 80s and the 90s, right? So a lot of these guys would have been either first generation that just come here, or second generation. That was most of the people that were being convicted of these crimes at that time. So I don't think personally, if I was to say, I would say to the Indian government, you need to look into why rape is an issue within India, but you can also do a more specific investigation as to why this particular group is doing this. right? Not that they came there to do it. It's just that they've come with their families. They don't do anything to their own women, but they're doing it to the women from the Indian population that were there before. I don't know if that sounds reasonable or not. I think it's a reasonable thing to ask for, isn't it?
That is literally what the second inquiry is asking for. The fact is, the first inquiry was overall child abuse across the board in the whole country, and all nationalities, all races, everything. But now they're saying, okay, now we have that, and we have the recommendations of that, which, yes, the despicable Conservative government never did anything about, and I guarantee you the despicable Labour government will do nothing about. But now people are saying, especially people in Oldham themselves are saying, can we have an inquiry on our case? Not even like the whole country, just Oldham. And they won't even let them do that. They won't even give them that opportunity.
With the girls, that was great.
Yeah, sorry, babe. So I'm not even against these lots having a inquiry or whatever, innit? Like, I'm just like, bro, you gotta be able to give them the reason to have an inquiry, innit? Like right now, you're just talking about just all these different feelings and this, that, and the other. You haven't actually given an actual specific reason for there to be an inquiry. Furthermore, you haven't even looked at the first inquiry. Wait, hold on. You haven't looked at the old inquiry to see, like, well, what they have investigated to say that, look, you've investigated A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Yeah, there's all these other parts here what haven't been investigated, and when crimes are still going on, and there's no implementations that could help stop any more crimes happening in these areas. Like, or you just keep saying, "Oh, I just want an investigation because I want one. Oh, I just want one, and you don't want one because you're a lefty. I want one because I love fucking Elon Musk." It's like, what the fuck?
No, I don't know. All right, so the reason I would give to have another investigation, I think, first of all, the Tory government were disgraceful. They didn't do anything anyway. And so the Labour government's been left with the shit that, you know, I'm not even Labour or Tory, to be honest. I think they're both shit. And they've been left with this stupidity as well. But they were in government before them, so they were also involved. So the whole government's kind of culpable, both parties. But the thing is that they need to look into not only implement what they've been told to implement, because obviously what's the point of doing the first one if they don't implement anything or do anything? That needs to be implemented. But I don't think there's an issue with having an inquiry into grooming and cases involving minors. Right now you're talking about people that are under 18, and then going into why they're happening, what's happening, and if there is a which I believe there is a Pakistani element to this, right? With cultural behaviors, backward behaviors in these northern towns. Because I live in East London, right? And the thing is, even when I talk, and I'm going to say this straight, yeah. Do you know when I talk to Pakistanis in London, like big odds and them up, they think the northerners are freaking backwards perverts, right? I've even spoken to Bengalis that I've known, because I used to have a lot of Bengalis. They say the same thing. There's something wrong with them up north, right? And I believe that there's something wrong with them because they've been ghettoized in these little towns. And their kind of cultural backwardness is kind of like, you know, pushing them into doing these crimes because they see women that don't behave in particular ways to be easy targets, or they're slags and stuff like that. And that needs to be looked into, the cultural aspect.
Yeah, that's bad.
Of why this happened.
Obviously, like what they was trying to do, yeah, with some of the implementations was, like, one of them was set up this database that was Keir Starmer and that I can't remember his name properly. Is it Nafaz Afzal or Nawaz Afzal?
Is it the guy that done all the
guy that done that investigation, innit?
Yeah, it was big up to him, man.
Yeah, they carried out the investigations into the grooming gangs thing, and they actually opened up they lowered the bar to investigations into some of these things, because obviously they was taking advantage of vulnerable people by plying them with like drugs and all that sort of stuff there. So obviously they're not going to have like a straight memory of, you know what I'm saying? Like some things
sorry, you've just touched upon a very important point that I need to just touch upon. You just said it. One of the reasons why a lot of these cases were not getting prosecuted is because they were judging the children according to adult laws.
Yeah, that's what Keir Starmer and that changed.
Yeah, so they've changed that, but there's still thousands of cases that never went to court because of the fact that they're too old or that this or that they were judging these cases.
Yeah, that's what Keir Starmer and that changed still.
But they still haven't managed. I believe there's a tip of the iceberg, and if they start to really investigate, where were the guys those 8 guys that picked up that girl and then raped her? Those 8 guys from 3 different cars. Where are they? They've never been convicted, right? There's also the case of the father that went to the house and his daughter was in the house, right? And they arrested him or told him that you can't do nothing. And she was like a 12-year-old, a 13-year-old, drunk, right? Where are those guys? It was actually, they said there was a couple of guys in the house. Where are they, right? Have they ever been convicted? We don't know. Where is the one that in the report? So there's so many cases where people have tried to highlight things, or the care homes, or people that were looking after these girls, they've tried to say stuff, and they've been dismissed, right? So I personally believe, whereas with the white pedophiles,
is the implementations of the things that should be able to like not being able to cover up and making people get convicted for sort of stuff like that, making it mandatory to report anything that could be happening, and obviously making it safer for whistleblowers, obviously, because like what happened was in the Wales care home, one of the chief of police in North Wales was grooming kids in the care home or whatever.
Yeah.
And one of what's that noise?
I can't hear nothing.
You can't hear nothing.
No. Yeah, no, I think the guy that prosecuted us, I've forgotten his name. So I think
but wait, listen, was that obviously like they want to create a database which carries like all the details of the people that was involved, the person that was abused, obviously the race of the perpetrators and all that, and any sort of background details, all of it to be on one database, so it's more accessible nationwide and all that sort of stuff. There, like obviously, if it is that what like the safety of the children that the main argument is, and not just the investigation into Pakistani grooming gang, because the man them want to on this Pakistani thing as a newest thing or whatever, then obviously wouldn't it be like investigate I don't know what that noise is, but investigate.
Guys, we're going to be finishing in a few moments. If you want to,
10 minutes.
wrap it up.
So basically, can I just
sounds like a doors creaking, opening, closing.
So let me just say something that Nazir Afzal, obviously from a Pakistani background. If you want to share the screen, man, this guy done an amazing job, right? He put his head above the parapet. He opened up cases and changed the kind of the criteria of what you could put through in order to get a
that's it. See, you know what it was, yeah.
No, but let me say it. I think.
Are you moving about on your computer chair?
Yeah, I might be. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what the flipping noise was, man. Making me feel like I'm going mad, you know. I'm like, what the hell? No one else can hear the noise.
No, but do you know what it is? Yeah, I do that everywhere I go because I shake my leg a lot, right? And even when I went somewhere, my sister said that all she could hear was my leg shaking because I have this. I don't know what it is, man. I kind of shake my leg in it, and so it's me probably. But can I just say that this guy Nazir Afzal, he done an amazing job in it. He done as much as he could, right? And I personally don't think Keir Starmer done I don't think Keir Starmer also done a terrible job. I just think the whole government, including the Conservatives, Labour and everybody from the last 20, 30 years, has neglected this issue. And they just need to implement whatever findings they did before. And if they need a new inquiry, why not?
I do agree that it might not have been as high up on the list, on the to-do list of things, without it coming to the forefront in the news lately as something to be investigated. You know what I mean? So
yeah, but the thing is, I personally think, and this is my own opinion, because you remember Big Ard, yeah? Remember that drunk Big Ard? You know, that shlubby, the alcoholic. He went to Speaker's Corner, right? And he said outrightly, I believe that the community in the north, because I don't think it happens. I've not heard of it happening in East London, if I'm being honest. And there's a lot of Pakistanis down here from where like big odds. I've not really heard a grooming case. They do their own efferys, like drug dealing and all that kind of stuff. And all
No,
that,
but people get abused all over the place, man. It's not just up north or down south. It's all over the place, bro.
But what I'm saying, there's a particular thing that they do. They target underage girls, young girls, and they pimp them out, right? Now, I'm not saying that doesn't have pimping and everything doesn't happen elsewhere with, adults and stuff like that. That does happen, but this is very specific with children, right? And we can all agree that a child is different from an adult, right? They both can be wrong, but which one's worse? Obviously, the child, is going to be worse. Now, he went to Speaker's Corner and he told everybody that he wants to set up a group of Pakistanis to highlight this issue and to tackle it, right, head on. And guess what happened? Do you think he got any support? What do you think? What do you think happened to him? What do you think happened, Belly?
What happened to him?
He got freaking lambasted by the Pakistanis, Muslims. Everyone just freaking literally ran him down, saying you're a traitor, you're this, and why are you doing this? There's nothing wrong, rah rah rah. And he had to back down, isn't it?
Is he talking about you with Tommy Robinson, or is it because he was you and Tommy Robinson, or?
No, it's because he was doing his own. He wanted to set up his own kind of group, which is a Pakistani group which deals with grooming cases up north. And he would go there and try and sort things out, right? Now, whether you think that's practical or not is not the point. It's the fact that he thought But I think I appreciated the guy even saying that because the amount of shit he got, right? He freaking more got so much shit because people were saying, "Oh, there's nothing wrong. Oh, why are you making a big deal of it?" Rah, rah, rah. Oh yeah, big odds and Betty. So, what do you say to that then? Because somebody has tried to do it. And even this guy that Nazir Absal,
well, come on, man! That was big. I was trying to set up a group or whatever, and people didn't want to join his group. It don't mean that there's no one that doesn't want this grooming sort of stuff to end or whatever. And like you're saying, obviously, the faster we can get all this database and information, or the government can get all that sort of stuff in place. And even if you look into the ICSA report, I'm telling you, look into the ICSA report yourself, Raj. And find out as much about it as you can. You will see for children in care and children that are supposed to be being taken care of the state or maybe in institutions because they may have broke the law or whatever. Like their protection is or the people that's protecting them are not checked or checked as much or as thoroughly as you thought they would be. So
I can imagine
implementing more stuff to get all them sort of people like proper DBS checked, and they said there's a new thing where you can report someone to the DBS now if even they like say someone's passed a DBS check or whatever, then you're working with them later on and they're displaying funny behavior or whatever, you can report these people to the DBS and all that sort of stuff there. Like so,
okay,
like a lot of the stuff what the people. Sorry, go on.
Gentlemen, why don't you guys finish off? Because I've got to go.
Well, we'll just I'm not against. I'm not anti-Keir Starmer. I'm not anti this absurd Nazir. I think they've done an all right job, right? It doesn't mean they're perfect, right? It doesn't mean they've done everything right. But I don't think scapegoating them is the good thing to do. The reason I think that I do believe there should be some sort of more thorough investigation into, say, the Pakistani grooming. I think if the Pakistani community doesn't just put their hands up and say there was an issue or there is an issue with this particular form of crime, it's just going to continue in other ways, right? If you can't just put your head in the stand, right? Certain communities have certain issues, right? Like I would say within the Sikh community, there is an issue with alcohol abuse and stuff. I'm not going to say it doesn't happen. It does. There's people that are getting drunk and dying and stuff like that. So I'm not going to lie and say, oh, no, Sikhs have a drink. It's against our religion. No, Sikhs drink a lot, even though it is against our religion, right? Even though it's against our religion, we still drink and there's people dying all the time. Same with the Pakistani.
Are you going to finish up or what?
Yeah. So let me say. So same with the Pakistani grooming gangs. I'm saying that they may say it's against their faith to do this. Doesn't mean that they're still not doing it in that community, right? Because they are or they were. Anyway, big up to everyone. I'll probably jump back on in a couple of weeks, innit? Anyway, Manny, thanks. Anyway, man, big up to everyone. Big up, Ellie, man.
Thank
Big
you.
up, thanks. Anyway,
Okay, let me big up. I'm just gonna quickly say, fuck the nonsense, and fuck anyone who wants to cape for the nonsense or somehow use some sort of cope.
You was just
Get
caping
them
for
all
nonsense, you
and
lunatic.
deport the fucking foreign nonsense first.
Yeah. You was just caping for nonsense because you're a lunatic, man. So ban every single nonsense. Black, white, Chinese, Indian, and in between, innit?
Hey, review this tomorrow. I like you reviewing these streams, innit? Last time I was watching, I
You
said
like
when you
my
reviewed
review,
it
yeah?
last. Yeah, I like you reviewing the review, like the thing, because then I read some of the comments and they freaking crack me up, man. God,
It's funny,
so
innit?
try and review some of it, innit?
Yeah, nah, I
Anyway,
won't be
man.
doing a review of this one, though, still.
Yeah. Anyway, take care, man. Anyway, bye. Anyway, Manny, Banksy, take care, really.
Take care, Raj. It's been emotional.
Yeah. Thanks.
Take care, Manny. Bye.
Bye. All right, thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining. What can I close on? I think I'll close on this. The Muslim community seems to be either under a genuine perception or they are just, have a notion of lip service where they state that they stand against child grooming, child abuse, child sexual abuse, when in reality, from the perception of the non-Muslim community, we don't see anything. Now, if something is going on, if they are activists in that community, I'd sure like to meet them. I'd sure like to come across something genuine. Even my channel, I've had a number of Muslim public figures pretend that they stood against it. But here's the real issue. And I think, apart from Banksy, perhaps I would have done, but he didn't really say it. I think the biggest problem the general public has is the notion or the story of Muhammad marrying a 9-year-old or whatever age it was. So whenever we have groups of, whether it's Pakistani grooming gangs in the UK, or it's Somalian Muslim gangs in Sweden or in Norway or Morocco and Spain. So whenever we come across this type of thing where children are being targeted, everybody just goes to that one story and thinks about, is it because of, their leader of that religion did this? That's the truth of it. I'm just trying to be honest. And as we know, Muslims regard that story as justification for certain things. So they say they can't change their religion, and we have seen even Muslim leaders or spokespersons at Speaker's Corner justify child sexual, is that the right term, sexualization? Or certainly they seem to regard Muhammad's example as reason to be able to marry what we in the Western world called a child. And I find that very uncomfortable. All right, that's it. I hope everybody enjoyed, not enjoyed, it wasn't the greatest subject, obviously, but at least we had a good discussion. Would have been nice to have somebody from the Muslim community join, but as we've seen over the years with these type of live streams and discussions, they don't join in. But they have in the past just called people Islamophobes and racists and all the other things that they just tend to make up. Thank you very much again for joining. I'll come back soon. Take care.